Oh, gosh. What's up, guys? I guess I'm live now. I need to quit scratching my face, huh?
I'm live now. I need to quit.
And I need to mute my other computer. My goodness. What's up, Myco Mama? Let me see the drawing. If you're talking about the logo Samantha's doing for you, my understanding she's working on that starting Monday or tomorrow. I don't remember. I didn't think that she had anything ready for you yet. Samantha's not here right now, so I don't have a good, clear answer for you. Sorry. What's up, Amanda? Hey, is this the first live stream you've made it to? It kind of seems that way. So, my goodness, we've already got 13 people in before I even start. That's crazy. Maybe you guys will forgive me. Forgive if I fix my hair. Well, what do you guys want to talk about tonight? I've got all kinds of things we can do. What's up, Lonnie B? How you doing? Welcome to the chat, man. Man, I am terrible at doing this. I'm a first-time long hair haver, and I am terrible at wrapping this stuff up. I get all these flyaways and stuff. Ladies, you got any advice? So what's up, bro? I've got a question for liquid culture. Is 1 tablespoon of malt extract okay for 1 cup of water? Let's see. I do mine by milliliter, and it comes out to okay. I've got to think about this for a second. I do mine in a big premix, and I've got a journal that I keep where I talk about my liquid culture, or where I write down my culture, and I am trying to remember what it is off the top of my head. It is potato dextrose and malt extract, and it comes out to being something like, oh my gosh, man! If you'll give me a moment, I'll look it up and I'll come back to it. So. And there's another. Eric Zimmerman says, "What's your LC recipe?" LCs. So I gotcha. Okay, here's the quick and simple solution. If you go to shroomsupply.com, man, see, I still can't get that right. If you go to shroomsupply.com, you can buy their premix, and then I just do 2 teaspoons of that per 500 milliliters of water. Now, if you're talking like you want to make your own, I'll have to go run and grab my journal to tell you that recipe, but I can do that for sure. Or I might even, because my recipe I got from one Lenny Rockwell, and he's the one that told me about it and where to get my supplies, and said for me to run that and practice with that to see if I like it. And honestly, it runs really well next to the premix. I've actually started adding a little bit of yeast, like bread yeast, to it. So that's a good one to go with, I think, because it seems like the ones with the little bit of yeast in them work really, really well. I'm scrolling through the conversation right now to find it. So what's up, Wayne? Glad to see you're back on, man. I think you had to leave early in our last one, didn't you? Maybe that was the time before. Spore Addict says, oh, yeah, pleasant Saturday surprise. Yeah, well, we've got a video launching tomorrow, and so I wanted to get on here and have, instead of doing a live stream and a video launch tomorrow, I figured it would do better to do a live stream today and then a launch tomorrow. And I'm not sure which video is coming out tomorrow. That may be our ventilation video, I think, that's coming out. And then soon after that, apparently, Robin and I were talking about it in the agar video that I've already made for you guys. It's probably actually being broken into 2 parts, and we'll talk about making the agar up, and then maybe doing one on pouring plates and slants. So, oh my gosh, I am having a really hard time. Let's see. Here you go. Save your money and stop buying the premix. Save the plastic containers, though, and mix your own. All right, here you guys go. Liquid culture. Water, 500 milliliters of water, a half level teaspoon of malt extract, and 20 grams of corn sugar dextrose. So it's actually not potato dextrose. It's the corn sugar dextrose. I buy all of my stuff on Amazon from that, and I add I think it's 1 gram of yeast that I add to it, and then pressure cook for 30 minutes at 15 psi. So that, again, the guys, that LC recipe comes out that I'm using now is 500 milliliters of water, 1/2 level, which I think I measured that out, and it came out to a 1 to 5. So it's something like 1/2 level teaspoon of malt comes out to like 4 grams. And then it's 20 grams corn sugar, 1 gram yeast. And I found that stuff rockets as liquid culture. So anyways, hope that works. Sorry that took me so long to find that. I hate to have that kind of long, boring section in the beginning, but at least you guys have that information. So, grandfather, man, someone stole my tartar sauce, and now I'm stuck with a big pile of fish sticks and no sauce. That sucks, grandfather. I always hate it when people steal my sauces. I love sauce. What's up, Lloyd? Welcome to the chat, man. Eric says sweet potatoes work really well in LC2. Yes, I've heard that. I have not used it. But I'm all about that because sweet potatoes are really easy to grow at home. And so, a fun little thought experiment is the grid ever goes down, you can always use your sweet potatoes and potatoes to make a form of liquid culture. Not that you're going to be doing a lot of sterile work in the apocalypse, I guess, but there's a way to get around it. People do it in third world countries all the time. You should go watch culture work videos for people like in India, Philippines. Not that those are third world countries, but all these places that they don't have the same level of technology that we have, the availability to like HEPA flow hoods and stuff. I see people working in like boxes with flames where they sanitize the inside of the box, and then they have these flames that they work around that kind of help protect the air on the inside. It's crazy. And then there's a lot of still air box uses and stuff like that I really like. Do you still use negative pressure only? So I've never only used negative pressure only. This is actually a mark of confusion amongst a lot of people. I use positive pressure in my lab. I use negative pressure in my grow rooms. And yes, all of my grow rooms are negative pressure. Yes, my lab is still positive pressure. Michael Mama, hey, Mama. Welcome back. Always good to have you around. Wayne says, I did have to leave early. I try to catch all these. New guy needs training. Yeah, I feel you, man. I thought that you had to leave early. Hopefully you got to go back and watch that later. Alex, what's your opinion on microwave versus autoclave for disinfecting? Autoclave is going to be way better at sterilizing than a microwave. I have used the microwave, and it works. And sometimes it works really, really well. It just kind of depends on cleanup and what exactly you're sterilizing, and if it can take the length of time that you need to microwave for, if you can keep the humidity from being cooked out of it, if the texture on your substrate doesn't change too much. It's all dependent. I think the microwave is a good stopgap measure, and it's a good way to start out. That's how I started out. I actually used to put my agar dishes up. I learned this when I was in college. We would put our agar dishes up, take the lid, leave it upside down, and then we would microwave it until the agar started to boil, and then we would immediately open it, the microwave as slowly as possible, put your lid back on, pull it out. And we actually always only worked in open air transfers in college. I never worked in front of a hood until I quit college and started working at home and bought a hood. So we never used still air boxes or anything. It was all open air. Let's see, where am I at? Sporex, signed up for a consultation this Wednesday. Yeah, I saw that, man. Thank you so much for signing up for that consultation. I look forward to it. I love doing consultations. It's like a live stream, except you get to go really deep and personal with one single person. So that excites me. Let's see. Adung. Hey, hello, man. What's going on? Miss Fredwina, welcome to the chat, darling. I'm interested in talking about your consultation services. Okay? And you're welcome, Adam. So let's see, Miss Fredwina, as far as my consultation services, can you tell me like what you're wanting, or do you want just like a quick overview? I guess I'll do a quick overview. My consultations, typically the basic consultation is a 3-hour consultation. That's usually 2 hours for the initial phone call to go over all the basics of starting an operation. And we can do that FaceTime, or we can just do it over the phone, depending on, what your setup is and what you prefer to do. I usually try to book a consultation a week or two in advance before doing it. That way you get to go over the materials I send out, which are very basic materials. You know all this stuff by watching my YouTube. But then it gives you time to get a whole list of questions ready and to go. And it gives me time to really dedicate that time and space to you. So that's why the 1 to 2 weeks. As far as like what we cover, that can be up to you. I can do a very basic consultation where it's like, A plus B equals C, continues on. And then if you have already been growing mushrooms, but you want specific information, we can go into that. And that's actually a really nice time when you schedule your consultation to send an email out, tell me where you're at, send me any information you want me to go over, any plans you have, etc., and just have all of that ready to go and in my head, so we're not wasting any of your time. And the third hour is typically just there because of all the texting, the phone calls and stuff that we're going to have to do after the consult as you debug anything that you've put into practice. That said, once you are through one of my consults, I consider you a student. I don't just drop people who go through that. I probably should continue charging for services. I've had people kind of tell me that I should, but I don't. I figure once you're my student, you've paid for my time. That 3 hour, $600 hurdle right there is really just so I only get serious inquiries about it. I don't want people just kind of asking me for a half hour or whatever, because a lot of the times the people who nickel and dime me end up being really hard consults to do. And not only are they really hard consults to do, they tend to require a lot more hand holding as time goes on, and then end up, having a harder time making it than people who usually go in with the initial investment right away. So, that's usually, I guess that's kind of the way that I shield myself a little bit from stress, because this is a very stressful business at times. As far as that goes, like I said, I can cover anything you want. I've got what looks like a consult coming up in Louisiana in June. I've got a consult this Wednesday with Sporadic. I've had a consult with Helen, who's been on here a few times. And so there's I do quite a few consultations, and we tend to be very successful. I have a very high success rate with my consultations. So I hope that answers your question, Fredwina. Tony, what ratio do you recommend for grow room incubation area? 1-to-1? No. My incubation, so you can stock your incubation space much more heavily than you can your grow space. So as far I have probably a 2 or maybe even a 3-to-1 grow space to incubation space, but my incubation space holds more bags than my grow room does, because I can I can stack one, stack another. They are very, very close together. I don't have to have space between them, that kind of thing. So, if you're doing shiitake, you probably need like an 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. I only do this because it's with oysters. So, because shiitake takes 8 to 10 weeks, depending on what variety you're growing, to incubate fully before it goes into the grow room. So I don't do much shiitake, so I'd have to actually sit down and do the numbers, but a 1-to-1 would not be sufficient there either, I don't think. Michael Moss says, didn't hear about the pic. Sorry, had issues with chat. Oh, no worries. The picture, I was saying that as far as I know, Samantha starts on that Monday. I thought that was what you guys had. I'm not really privy to what she does on the logo side of things, other than whatever I see her working. So she's actually not here either. She's supposed to be back sometime soon. She went out to go get food for the family. We just had a party for my boy today. What do you know about turning myceliated grain spawn into a tincture? Peter McCoy talks about even eating and cooking with grain spawn. So Sydney Ober-Singleton's a good person to talk to about this. He does like a morel tempeh that looks really tasty. I've not tried it, but I want to. My Pathfinder oyster is so sweet smelling that I've often thought that I would love to grow it over grain, like corn, and then do like a cooked corn that's like a sweet myceliated different. I mean, like you'll still be able to eat it so long as it's sterile, and doesn't have any problems in growing in there. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. I love it. As far as making tinctures, I don't know anything about making tinctures. The only tinctures I've ever made were back when I was going to herbalism school, like well over a decade ago, and I've forgotten most of that information. Usually I just get my tinctures from friends that grow mushrooms and make tinctures. What's up, Hatip? Hi, Tim. I hope it's Hitem. I hope I didn't butcher your name, but hello. I'm just starting to. The NorCal says I'm just starting to grow as a hobby. Your knowledge and videos has been valuable. I'm so appreciative. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize there was a question. Otherwise, I wouldn't have read that out for everybody. But You're very welcome, NorCal. I hope we continue to be helpful. Leonard says, New Zealand here once again, loving the Q&As. Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate all the people that we. Holy crap, we got 41 people in here right now. Michael Mom, I have a question about a small spot in a master grain bag. There's a light yellow liquid, less than a drop of water. Do you think it's contaminated or is it real? So it could it's not probably moisture. It's probably metabolite. Mushrooms, their stomachs. Think about it. The mushroom is the mycelium is basically an external stomach, and it leaks metabolite to digest things. And then, sorry, I had a stink bug on me. And then that, as it breaks down the materials, it sucks that stuff back up. Now, sometimes you'll get waste products that develop and they come out, and that might be what that yellowish liquid is. Sometimes people call it hippie piss, which is an interesting name for it. But it's usually, it's not uncommon. It's not dangerous. You're going to be fine on that. Or will it be consumed by mycelium? Sometimes it's consumed by the mycelium. Sometimes it's not. Usually when it collects in a large drop, it's either metabolite that's got in the way and it's not pulling back, or it's a waste product. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes if you have a lot of metabolite, it might mean that you actually have a contamination that it's using that metabolite to fight. I know Trad Cotter of Mushroom Mountain in Liberty, South Carolina, I think. He does tests where he actually on purpose contaminates a block and then extracts the metabolite from it to examine it for medicinal properties, which I think is a great idea. I mean, that's antibiotics basically, right? So I wouldn't toss it though. I would see maybe just check it. If you've got like a few blocks you can put it to, or just a little bit of straw or something you can put it to test it, try that. Just read me. I'm building a building soon, and I'm interested in a layout building from the ground up. I'm still not sure what all to ask. I've grown a couple bags for oneself, but not a full setup. So if you're talking about on the consults kind of thing, if you're talking about a full op design, that's going to cost more. Typically, I like to do those either in person where you're going to build the op, or have you come up here and examine our op, or we can do it over the phone. But those two do tend to be a little bit more expensive. They're not a standardized thing, so you'll need to just get in contact with me personally, and then we'll negotiate a consult as far as that goes. If you just want a basic consult, or to buy a couple hours of my time, like 3 hours of my time to ask me questions and everything else, like I said, I'm not going to just drop you. I'll be there with you every step of the way. But the amount of time I'll be able to dedicate to you will be better if you are just go through a negotiated consult with me to do a full op layout like that. Squarek says, is CO2 accumulation an issue with the incubation room? Do you have to vent? What about heat? So it is not necessarily an issue for the mushrooms. It is going to be more of an issue for you before it's an issue for the mushrooms. You don't want to work in really heavily CO2'd air. That is going to cause all kinds of problems with your headspace. So yes, you need to vent. It's better to vent. Or at least have some way to keep it down below 2,000 parts per million. Ideally, even way less than that. So I think mine right now is about 1,300 parts per million in the incubation room, which is still not ideal. I'd rather have it down to 600 to 800. Leonard says, I noticed you have a ton of LCs and not that many stirs. Can you talk about how you cycle jars and how long you grow out till you refrigerate cultures and maintenance once they are finished incubating? Yeah, Leonard, absolutely. So how many do I have actually? I've got like 30 liquid cultures going right now, I think. I go downstairs every day, and I do daily checks for my entire operation every day. I feel like that's a must for a mushroom grower, is to do those daily checks. If you skip one or two occasionally, that's fine. As long as you're doing them daily as a habit, then you can kind of squeeze one or two out or leave for vacation or whatever you need to and then come back. But that said, when I go downstairs, the first thing I do is start culture stirring. And I just kind of let them stir for 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes. If I can get them really, if I can get them really vigorous, then I don't have to stir them very long at all. But just for a few minutes, and I do them 2 at a time. I have 2 stir plates. Ben's building me this awesome stir plate, guys. I'm so excited. We just got all the parts in yesterday. So this stir plate is going to be a 5-plate stir. It's custom. Ben's building it all custom. He's using fans and magnets and all that kind of stuff like he has with our other one. But this one is going to be made out of sheet metal with a plexiglass top. And now that plexiglass top, we're putting LEDs in around every single fan so that we'll be able to light up from the bottom all of our liquid cultures. And we've got red, green, blue, and I'll be able to control the color and the brightness individually with all of that stuff. Now, that said, Ben knows I like toggle switches because I'm retro like that. So this thing is going to be controlled mostly by toggle switches with a couple of dials for the color changes and the brightness as for the potentiometers. And then beyond that, the most exciting part to me is we decided, since we're going to build it out of sheet metal, instead of going with any kind of welds or anything like that, we're going to do completely rivets and make it look a lot like a B-17 bomber from World War II. And Samantha's actually right now working on a pinup girl riding a stir bar, like a pinup girl riding a bomb that goes on the side of a B-17. That's going to go on the side of this thing. It's going to be a mushroom pinup girl. She's probably, I think when I saw Samantha, she's holding a syringe, stuff like that for liquid culture. So I'm really blown away by how well this project's kind of coming along. So I'm going to have the slickest stirring station of anyone that I've ever met. Anyways, that said, your question was about how long I grow them out to. I mean, it's all subjective to me. When it looks like there's a lot of mycelium in there, I just slow it down by putting it in the refrigerator. But a lot of times, the stuff I'm constantly pulling from just sits outside of the fridge and gets stirred. I actually don't have that many cultures sitting in the refrigerator right now. So, yeah, I mean, it's all very subjective for me right now. I'm still learning the ins and outs of absolute ideal liquid culture, even though I'm having very good production results with it. As far as maintenance, if it starts looking really kind of clumpy black spots or anything like that, I just toss it out and restart it, either with agar or with a syringe that tests clean. Alex says, have you ever used Miracle Grow water mix added to the soy wood chip substrate, i.e. to max yield and grow size? So I've used hydroponic chemicals before, and the block grew in great and never fruited. Every time we've ever tried that, I think that I need to work on nitrogen content to get that down properly. But I've often thought that using hydroponic chemicals would be an interesting way to go. The block grew in great. I mean, it was one of the best grown blocks I've ever had. It's just, making sure that it ends up being, I think a lot of times when you have a really high nitrogen containing substrate, your mushrooms won't fruit at all. I don't know what it is. You need that nitrogen really high, to get a really good fruit. But once you go over that line, nothing. Hyden says, my chat jumped. I'm using MEA, and when I did mushroom to agar transfer, I noticed the mycelium that grow looks very light and transparent. What I did wrong? It depends on the mushroom, but you didn't necessarily do anything wrong. That thick growth is not typical of every species or even every strain. I'll tell you right now, in my breeding program, I've got about 36 strains that are heading to Grain Master right now for trialing and then going up on the website for sale. And they're only for two different crosses. I have an Elm and Blue cross and a Snow and Blue cross that all these strains are coming from. And man, the Snow Blue crosses are coming out fantastic. The Elm and Blues are nice too, but gosh, those Snows and Blues are coming up with some weird stuff, like chocolate brown out of a snow white oyster and a blue oyster. Kind of crazy. But that said, maybe 1/3 of all of those strains that I've cloned out and grown out grow with kind of a wispy appearance and thin kind of appearance. And that's not a problem. My Pathfinder oyster is a very aggressive oyster, but it grows a lot like a Hericium, which is very thin and airy looking. As long as you don't have any like slick, greasy spots or mold, you're fine. Now, if it's growing really fast across a dish, like covers a dish in a day or two, and then starts turning green in the center, you've cloned mold, not the actual mushroom. Adam Anderson, I'll start checking daily again. I just did 14 more. I still need to get the Black Pearl King. Hey man, yeah, the doing daily checks changed my entire operation. Instead of it sounds so silly, but knowing the things to check every single day, coming in. Sometimes I do my daily checks before the employees come in. Rarely. Oftentimes it's usually after they leave. I do my daily check and go down. And what I do is I do my daily checks while I'm stirring cultures. Then I sit down and do my lab work for the day. And I do that while switching out cultures. And basically what happens is I never have a lab day that goes for more than a couple of hours. So I just go down there and I do 2 hours of lab work. and I always prioritize anything that urgently needs to be done gets done that time, and then anything that can wait till tomorrow gets pushed over on the lab table. And if I work fast enough, I can get to that stuff that day. And if I don't work fast enough, then obviously tomorrow I'll come down for my next 2 hours. And there are lots of days when I'm down there stirring cultures, moving around, cleaning up stuff, doing things, writing notes, or just daydreaming while getting those cultures going. So sometimes I go down there, like liquid cultures. As I'm stirring, that's when I pull my liquid cultures and then ship them out usually that next day. Though you guys are killing it on the liquid culture orders. Holy cow. That's awesome. Michael Mama, when my CO2 gets really high, I vent the entire area just before going in, then let it do its thing when I'm gone. When I'm not in there, it seems to help. Yeah, so actually high CO2 can help with incubation runs. It's actually a very well-known thing that having that high incubation or that high CO2 in incubation actually can help speed up your spawn run. It's not by much, just by a little bit. Ow. Jose says, how many pounds of dry sawdust pellets per 10-pound bag? So I don't do 10-pound bags. I'll give you my 12-pound bag recipe. 12 pounds comes out to 2.5 pounds hardwood fuel pellets, 2.5 pounds soybean hull pellets, and roughly 7.25 pounds water, which comes out to about a 12.25 pound bag. Daniel Martinez, greetings from Guatemala. Great channel. Thanks, Daniel. Welcome. I assume you don't actually say it Daniel. You say it Danielle. But yeah, man, welcome. Wayne says, being a former aircraft mech sounds like a cool stir station. Yeah, man, I'm so excited about it. Like, I'm tickled pink. Campbell Walker, love your work, Mossbacks. Thanks for sharing so much. Yeah, man, thank you. I hope you find us as useful as we love being used. Michael Mama, well, gotta love Ben. Michael Discotheque. Yeah, right, man. Ben is killing it. Ben is the crap. I guess I can't say the other word on a live chat and still be monetized, can I? Or is it only within the first 10 minutes? I love the growing part, but I suck at selling and marketing. Would you recommend that I hire a salesperson, or do you have any other tips for that problem? So I'm a naturally gifted salesman. My father's a salesman. When I was young, he used to take me door to door to sell insurance in a place called Newport, Tennessee, which is not entirely open to outsiders. So I just learned a lot from watching Dad about how to just authentically be myself. A lot of people don't have that gift, and you're absolutely right. As far as that goes, there's a few tips I have to systematize my sales practice, and that's usually just to focus on quality for the mushrooms. Call up a restaurant beforehand, not at a busy time, so not during lunch or dinner, usually between lunch and dinner, so about 3-4 o'clock. And then you can call and say, hey, may I speak to the person in charge of purchasing produce? If they'll let you speak to them, just say, hey, I'd like to bring you I'm so-and-so with whatever mushrooms. I'd like to bring you a sample of these really gourmet mushrooms. What's a good time to bring that by? And, I find the phone calls work really well. Oftentimes I'll just show up, and kind of knock on the door and be like, hey, I just wanted to drop off this sample of the box. Cards stapled to the top. They're not my best mushrooms. They're usually my second or third best mushrooms because I don't want the chef seeing my best of my best of my best as that first impression. And then I only have that 1 or 2 boxes of the best out of all the boxes I'm selling. I want to show him what it's actually going to look like when he buys mushrooms from me and not have a too high of a standard. So I hand that box to the chef or whoever's in charge of purchasing produce. And I'm like, hey, I know your time's important. I didn't mean to interrupt your day. I'm going to head out. My number's right there on the top of the box. If you like what you see, please just give me a call, man, and we'll talk prices. And just walk out the door. Usually they stop me. Oftentimes I've got calls in the parking lot or while I'm on leaving the parking lot to come back in and talk to them because they'll open that box and just be like, oh my gosh, these are beautiful. Then I usually just try to set up a weekly list where it's like, hey, if my best way of providing you mushrooms is if you're going to order every week. So even if if some weeks you want to order 3 cases and the next week you want to order none, it's actually better to me if you just buy 1 case every single week and then average that out. And that way I can just show up for you. You don't have to worry about calling me. You don't have to worry about me calling you and interrupting your day or anything like that. And then I'll just show up with a box of mushrooms. You write me a check and I'm gone out of your hair because I know your time's important. And that's one of the best ways I've had is just knowing to not talk their ears off. It's really hard for me sometimes. I find that I have a way of I have a good instinctual way of responding to people in a conversation, but I have a really hard time sometimes recognizing when a conversation is over or when someone wants to talk more, or sometimes I have a hard time recognizing certain emotions with people. And so I have to really find a way to systematize. I'll tell you, sometimes Samantha just pulls me away from people, and I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if I'm on the spectrum somewhere or something, but I do sometimes I get a little bit obsessive and have a hard time just like reading people. So the best way I've learned to do is just to systematize my sales and lean into the system and let the system do the work and not have to worry so much about being incredibly thoughtful in every interaction I do. I hope that helps. I kind of feel like I'm not being very helpful there, but I hope I am. That being the case, by the way, Leon, if you're having a really hard time about it, getting a salesperson who's really, really good. Hold on a second. I need to block a person. Well, apparently I can't block him, but I can at least put him in timeout right now. All right. So, anyways, hiring a salesperson is a good answer for that, because salespeople, they focus. They're able to focus on that job, something they're good at, lean into that, and the sales force is what is going to provide for your business. So, as far as I'm concerned, your salesperson should be your highest paid person in the business. Your sales force needs to have the best benefits, the most leeway, but they also need to be held to a high standard. So that said, I am the sales force as far as Mossy Creek is concerned at the time. I mean, my father owns an agency, and I think that he would tell you the same thing, that sales is the engine of growth that you need. What is the temp range in your incubation room? I try to keep it around 70 degrees. Leonard says, thanks for that answer. I have 4 stirs, pretty much stirring constantly. Was surprised to see your setup. Definitely getting me a decent lamp. Yeah, the lamp helps to see through everything. Plus, sometimes it's just so fun to watch those layers that develop with the liquid culture, and you just start stirring it slowly, and everything starts to swirl. Kind of looks like Jupiter sometimes. Love Jupiter. When the Juno mission went out and got all those pictures of Jupiter storms, it was amazing. It really blew me away. Hey, baby.
I brought you some food.
You brought me food?
I did. I brought you food.
Well, I'll eat after.
Did you hear the balloon pop?
I did hear the balloon pop. I don't know if they did.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for the food. I'll eat after the live stream.
I want to go pick.
Oh, you're gonna pick? Oh, yeah. There's like 20 cases down there that need to be picked, I think.
No.
It's crazy. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Oh, yeah, the lamps. Yeah, it's the lamps are wonderful. But as far as, I mean, I use 2 stir plates, and it's not ideal. I wish that I had a whole bank of stirs to continually stir. Once we get this 5-station setup going, excuse me, hiccups. Once we get this 5-station one going, I'll have 5 cultures going at all times. So 5 cultures, I'll come down the next day, do 5, probably switch those out during that same day, during my checks, and then go to another 5, and I'll be able to churn through cultures that way. Campbell says, may I please ask your favorite mycoculture Bible? Right now, it's Radical Mycology by Peter McCoy. Growing Gourmet Medicinal Mushrooms is the one that really got me into it, by Paul Stamets. I got into mushroom growing, that is. Trad Cotter's book was okay. I thought Paul's were a little bit better. But I like, from what I've seen of videos, I think I like Trad. I've never met him in person. I've talked to his wife, Olga, online. She seems pretty nice. When it comes to the big boys, I don't actually have a lot of contact with the big boys. I don't do a ton of traveling right now. I have always wanted to go in and meet a bunch of these guys, but notice like people like William Padilla Brown, man, he's really making the circuits. But I spend most of my time here at home, just working on the business from here. Populist Revolt, what's up? Not much. What's up with you? Pluto, welcome back to the chat, Pluto. Looked on Amazon for a Sauna 9 kilowatt steamer. The one for 195-ish looks great, but the comments say their wiring is jacked up for 220V here in the States. Actually, I think that's the one we went with. So if I have any recommendations, that would have to be the one I recommend because that's the only one that I have had any experience with. That said, I think Ben did say he ended up making a couple minor modifications to it. I wish he was here. He would be able to tell you better on that. But yeah, that's those 9 kilowatt steamers are what we used. What I would do is buy one, then buy a backup. I mean, at $200, that's a steal. So, Alex, how often do you second or third flush the substrate, and when do you know when you have maxed out? Almost all of my blocks are second flushed. Third flush is only if I have a big contamination problem. Then we have to throw a bunch of blocks away in the incubation. Then the blocks that are in the grow room that would normally get thrown out and be replaced by those stays for a third flush, so we don't lose all of our numbers. But that's the only time I really try for third flushes. Excuse me, I took my Flonase right before this, and I think that was a mistake. I'm having like hiccups and like drainage going, so not that you needed to know that. Yeah, absolutely chilled. I'm from Australia. What's up? And thank you. Roman, I think in one of your older videos you talked about not trusting LC to inoculate your bags. Do you feel the same way? Nope. I have a whole video talking about how I was wrong and how I love liquid culture now. And I do. I am all about LC now. As long as you do proper testing, followed by proper protocols, followed by proper testing, you shouldn't have a problem with LC. And it should be really quickly for you to, like, if an LC is contaminated, just restart it and you'll have it in a matter of days. I cannot tell you how much of a lifesaver that's been for me. My order processing time is sped up like crazy. It's just I've got more spawn, coming in every day than I did the day before. LC is absolutely the way to go in this day and age. The old ways just don't apply like they used to. Blender Palace, would you please write your LC recipe again in your chat so that I can translate it into German? If I had a moderator, I probably would be able to. Right now, it's going to come under Andrew Reed. Let me see if I can't write this out real quick. Guys, again, my liquid culture recipe is 500 milliliters of water. Oh, crap. It's going to make me put it in that way. 500 milliliters water, 20. Well, crap, let's do. Okay. A half level teaspoon of malt extract. Oh crap. Okay. This is not going the way I wanted. It's like breaking it up. It won't let me do a whole lot of stuff. Anyways, 20 grams corn, sugar, dextrose, and 1 gram dried yeast. Okay, so it's under my name, Andrew Reed, not under the Mossy Creek Mushrooms chat. I hope that helps, man. Again, that didn't go quite the way I wanted to, but maybe I can do a blog post on it sometime. But it's going to be in like 4 different parts on there. K-Mac, yay, hello. Hey, what's up, man? Campbell, Tasmania and Australia here, by the way, just if you're keeping tabs on how far. Yes, I do keep tabs on that. Something that we're wanting to do is do a whole map that we can display somewhere where, we get people and we ping, like when we do our live chats, we'll be able to say, hey, from Australia, and get our numbers down. So, but I'm glad to see that we're so international. K-Mac, Andrews, whether you're both awesome. Well, thank you, K-Mac. I appreciate that. It's kind of weird being someone's inspiration, right? Are your stir plates also hot plates or just stir? Just stir plates. I don't have any hot plates. I have a hot plate, but it's a hot plate, and then I have 2 stirs. I don't have a stir or hot plate combo. Raven Gordon, what's your most popular product? Online or with fresh mushrooms? Fresh mushrooms is probably my King Blue Oyster. With my liquid or my website, probably used to be my comb tooth strain, but these days it's probably a tie between my giant King Oyster strain or my King Blue strain. But I'm hoping to rock that game out again because my King Blue is starting to get to a whole bunch of other companies, and they're starting to sell it now. And now I've got like 36 new strains on the way. So I'm hoping to hit that again, So, and I've got some cool stuff coming in, like colors, textures, and everything of oysters. So, K-Mac, do you recommend the book Radical Mycology for Beginner? Yes, probably, but it might be a little overwhelming in the beginning. But the smaller books that are geared more towards beginners, in my opinion, they just don't have enough to hold you over. So Radical Mycology is a good place to start. Just recognize that you might feel a little overwhelmed in the beginning, and that's okay. Just keep reading. It all makes sense. In fact, the only way I ever do things is to absolutely, completely put myself and get overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed, I know I'm in a good place because that means I've got tons to learn. So, reading Spanish, I have a book. Good. I'm glad you have a book. Lonnie B, I have access to bulk alder substrate. I have access to bulk alder sawdust. Is alder a substrate, and is sawdust worth messing with compared to pellets? I prefer pellets if you can get pellets, even if they're more expensive. Free is not free because the amount of time you're spending working with your bulk sawdust, I feel like, is not that great. That said, if it's what you have access to, it's what you have access to, and you build your system around that. And yes, alder sawdust does work. Lots of people use it. Senator Bernie Sanders, top 1%, 123, Jerry Jr. And put user in timeout. Man, guys, we're getting a lot of these guys tonight. Sorry, guys, I'm just moderating a little bit. All right, cool. Got those guys going. Let's see. And as far as Senator Bernie Sanders goes, let's put you gone too. Awesome. Cool. All right. All right, let's get back to it. So I captured a mystery fungus from nature a few months ago to cardboard, which may be Lentinus levis or Pleurotus drynus. Going to try to fruit it out to determine what it is. See next. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's cool. Try it out. Let me see what it is. Yes, Wayne. Here, Wayne, right here. Add moderator. There you go. Thank you, Wayne. Please use the power wisely. Okay. I don't want any political or religious stuff on here right now. And, of course, anything overtly super offensive. I mean, I want freedom of speech as much as possible, but we don't need to be getting cluttered up with all kinds of weird stuff. So this is a dictatorship, y'all. A male potato place. All right. Which mushrooms do you feel are the best cold weather spring starters? What's the coldest weather that you get where you live? So we get down to 9 degrees, sometimes -4, something like that, but not very often. We have blue oysters, king oysters, enoki, and oh my gosh, the king blue. All of those are really good cold weather ones. What's up, Wayne? Let's see. I hope that answers your question. The king blue is my favorite all-around mushroom as of right now. So for cold weather, it even survives hot weather. It saved my butt last year. Elm Z did a better job in the summer than the king blue did, but it is what it is. Sporadic LC. 500 milliliters water, half teaspoon malt extract, and 20 grams potato, dextrose, or corn sugar, and 1 gram yeast or yeast extract, then pressure cooker. Yep, that's it. Or are you asking? If you're asking, they said Lenny said corn sugar. I just bought it from the link that he had. I can't link in these things because they consider that spamming you guys. So that'll actually get my channel banned, kind of thing. So, all right, egg shape. Let's get you going too. Man, we have got more spammers in this chat than we've ever had. But Wayne, I made him a moderator. Wayne Strickland, he was on our last chat, and he's been helping me out. Yeah, thank you, Wayne. All right, so. Oh my gosh, it's hard to get through all this. Do you ever go mushroom hunting, and how do you identify toxic from edible? I don't go mushroom hunting very often, and toxic to edible is a species by species thing. There is no black and white way of telling what is and isn't toxic or edible. So, Shravenlorg, what's up, man? Drop small pieces of myceliated cardboard on agar, nutritional yeast, malt extract in half-pint jars. It's been about a week now, and the mycelium isn't jumping. Why not? You may be contaminated. A lot of times when they won't leap off like that, it's oftentimes bacterial. It's not always, but that's often the case. Yeah, Lloyd, thank you. We definitely got Zodiac and oh gosh, I've lost you now, and Bernie. So, do you think that cold lime tech is a viable option for commercial growing, at least for oysters, or is it too uncertain? It's too uncertain for me, but a lot of people use it with good success. So it really just kind of depends on what tools you have available. Lime's a great, cheap way to go, but it is not always the best way, in my opinion. To me, heat is far more reliable. How about grain or millet in the substrate? You can do that. Actually, one of the ways that I used to always just add it with the grain spawn, though. So one of the ways I would bulk up my my straw bags back when we had straw is we would do heavy spawning of oat spawn, and that would end up being the best way to go because it give you a high nitrogen in there, but it always did it in a sterile way compared to straw, which we tried to add wheat bran and other things to pasteurize it. It always contaminated very quickly. Yeah, awesome, Wayne. Thank you. Bob, I'm not as familiar with you, so I'm not going to rinse you just yet. As I get to know you, I will, but Wayne's been with me for a while, so I know him. Campbell, would love to see more of your teachings on breeding mushrooms. Have Tasmanian strains of reishi, Enoki, and tree oyster in particular. So I can give you the way that people do it, but I can't. I'm not going to give away the way I currently breed right now. In part because I'm still experimenting with it and I don't have a good SOP, a standard operating procedures to give you guys. But it's also kind of my money maker going into this right now. So my plan is to take this, develop a whole bunch of strains, release those, make a little bit of profit off of it, and then share my tech with you guys as I continue to advance. And that way, eventually, I'd like to get a whole network of people doing these breeding experiments with me, different types of mushrooms and all kinds of stuff, and eventually maybe even get into hybridizing, maybe even talking to the Odin and seeing if we can't do some, maybe some engineering experiments of some sort. So I have not bred any types of mushrooms other than oysters or black poplar right now. So I was just writing that recipe out for the fellow that asked. Okay, that's what I thought. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. That's very, very helpful. And then Lloyd says, if you want another moderator. Yeah, Lloyd, I might just do that. Let's see how things go for right now. But man, if we need to tap you in, we will for sure. Thank you. And with Michael. Oh, hey, Michael Mama said too. Awesome, Michael. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the help. This whole thing. Let's see. I'll tell you what, Wayne. We're gonna go ahead and quiet down this guy. All right, let me get back to where I was, guys. This is getting to be distracting. Alex says, "What's your opinion on ultrasonic fogger versus fan mister?" I prefer the ultrasonics. I find that I like their fog better. The machines are not as reliable, for sure. So you need to systematize how you handle these things. Like, you need to make sure that you're going to have backups in place. You need to make sure you really follow the instructions they give by having a large reservoir, plenty of cool water. Heat destroys them. It's just one of those things that it's one of those things that really makes things a lot easier to handle whenever you systematize the. Oh my gosh, I'm falling apart, guys! All like the spammers are really tearing me up here. The ultrasonic fog is a finer mist, better yields, better fog, lower contamination. Machines are slightly less reliable, but as long as you follow the rules and really handle that well and then systematize by having backups, you're all good. You're all golden. And John Broadhead of House of Hydro's got some of the best customer service that I've seen, a lot better than a lot of these bigger companies. So Billy Nash is a super chat. Let's prioritize that, guys. I want to hear the quick love story that gave us the mycological power couple that is Andrew and Samantha Reed. Well, it would be better if she was sitting in with you for it. Well, right here she is. So let's talk about our love.
I heard spammers and thought I'd be back up. So.
Oh, for sure. So with oh my gosh, you want to know, like, what do you want to know about it? Like, you want the quick love story? Okay. The quick down and dirty is embarrassing to me. I was dating a girl and I was in high school, and a mutual friend of ours told me she met this girl that was perfect for me. And I told her I already have a girlfriend. I'm not interested in looking for another girlfriend. Well, I have a girlfriend, but thank you. And the next day she brought Samantha by and she said, "So Andrew, what do you think?" in front of Samantha. Right. And
also, I had no idea. She just told me that, you should come by the newspaper room. I think you'd really like newspaper and journalism and blah, blah, blah. And so I called her and
Mo says she doesn't love you. She loves me. So yeah, that's going on. She goes, "So Andrew, what do you think?" And I go,
mask here.
I'll tell you that my thought process. Let me tell you my thought process before I tell you what I said, because you people will hate me. Otherwise, I
But you can't hate him for long, I promise.
You can't hate him for long. You can never hate me for long. I was sitting there thinking to myself, she's not going to stop. And I've already told her, I felt like I've set up a boundary and she's not going to stop. So I looked at Samantha and I made sure to look her up and down. And I went, she's all right, but I like what I've got better, or something like that. And I knew when I said this that it was going to be rude to her. And I felt bad that I was being rude to her, but I thought this is the only way to get this chick to understand she needs to stop bringing girls. Like, I don't ever want this to happen again. So what is the most awful thing I can do to make sure this will never happen again?
And I will say that Crystal was she saw something that she thought was right, and she was very determined to make sure that with everything.
I should have listened a little better, I guess. But so a year goes by, and I take a girl home in my car from high school, and she missed the bus. She lived right next door to me, so I took her to her house, not my home, not back to my place or anything like that. Samantha's my one and only, first ever.
No. Likewise.
And so, that being the case, my dad found out about it, and the rule was I wasn't allowed to take a girl home, so I got grounded. First day I'm riding the bus, see Samantha.
And I found out because her mother called and said, "You raised such a responsible young man." And I just want to say how proud I am that he brought her home, because I wouldn't have been able to come and get her from school since she'd missed the bus until like 7 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah.
So Andrew didn't have the heart to just leave her there.
I didn't, and I knew I'd get in trouble. I mean, or at least I knew the possibility existed. I didn't think that her mom would tell on me.
Took the risk to do what was right. She's very attractive, in my opinion.
Tell me more good things about me. I get grounded. I see Samantha on the school bus, and I see that she's got a backpack next to her. And I say, "Hey, may I sit here with you?" And she looked me up and down, and went, "No, I'm saving the seat for someone." So I go sit behind her a little bit, and I ride the bus, and I'm watching. And I notice no one ever comes and sits in that seat. So the next day I come up, I go up to the bus and I say, "May I sit here?" And she said, "No, I'm saving the seat for someone." I said, "Great." I grabbed her backpack and I threw it on the floor, sat down and pushed her over. And she just looked at me, and I kept talking to her. And every day I did this for the rest of that week that I was grounded.
And to be fair, I had a friend who was always she was kind of shy of outgoing, and she always wanted to sit with me because she was afraid to sit with other people. And I never knew when she was going to ride the bus, so I was saving it for someone. But I just didn't want you to think I was lying or being
Yeah,
stingy.
she was lying. So
Was not.
the whole point, and I guess you guys probably don't need to hear about our love too much. You know, I'm afraid that our statistics will go down, right? You got to worry about those numbers. So anyway, I started sitting with her. By the end of the week, I had her phone number, and I was calling her. And I went home and I told Dad, I've met the most beautiful woman.
Very persistent.
Yeah, she's
Annoyingly
wonderful.
So.
Yeah, she said maintains even to this day that she only gave me her phone number because I was persistent and wouldn't go away. And I thought, well, that's silly. You should have given me a fake number or something. But anyways,
hey, block Mo Lester. What
yeah. Hey,
jerk.
Wayne, can you can you quieten Wayne or Mo down a little bit? Yeah, one day I'll show that. I like that. So anyways, that's kind of how we got together. We were married. Like, I went to college. She was in high school one more year. We had kind of a long distance. Well, it wasn't very long. I was going to school in Knoxville.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. And then I had, after she got out, she went to the same school I did. We got married right before that school year, that same summer. And our first kid was born the next year, and we've been together ever since. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I hope it was worth it.
Thick and thin.
Now going back up to where we were. Let's see. Michael Mama. Oh, yeah. You said that you would. You told Samantha you would help. I really appreciate that, and it is crazy. Thankfully Wayne seems like he's knocking people back bit by bit. So maybe the troll hammer, will Mjolnir. Wayne, I'm gonna nickname you Mjolnir. How about that? The troll hammer. What would you grow if you lived in Florida? So it kind of depends. If I had an ideal system, I'd grow anything I wanted, obviously. If I was working in something that's not so ideal, Florida heat's a problem, so your AC is going to have to be really good. A lot of times that means that you're going to run slower air. So things that can take less airflow, like Carissiums, like lion's mane, comb-toothed bear's head would be good. Shiitake actually would be a really good thing if you're having to slow down your air. Shiitake doesn't need as much fresh air as oysters do. That said, if you got enough air conditioning and enough humidity, Rocco's oysters, man. Oysters are always the way to go when you're first starting out, in my opinion. It's the biggest value increase you can get for the least amount of effort, and it's very hard for other people to compete with you because oysters don't ship very well. So if you haven't read it yet, mosscreekmushrooms.com, our blog posts. Ben has a series called Mycological Warfare, Part 1 and Part 2, Charting the Battlefield and Knowing Your Enemy. And then I have one called Working Backwards. I think all three of those are really good places to start. Mycological Warfare, Part 1 and Part 2, and then Part 3 that's coming up soon, are about what we see the industry being over the next few years. So we're working on that series. But it's a very slow series to point out because it's a lot of philosophical discussions between all of us. So that's Michael Mom says that's ridiculous. He keeps getting in. I'm so sorry y'all have to deal with that when people are trying to learn from y'all. Yeah, it's a little difficult, but it's not that bad. Especially as we develop some infrastructure to deal with it. Like Wayne, Jason's going to start moderating for us. So is Robin, Samantha. So we're gonna start having a lot more of that.
And that was just sort of a first come, first served basis. And if we need more, then we'll definitely hit you guys up on
Oh,
that.
yeah,
So
for sure.
Thank you, everybody, for the offers and for the consideration. It's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Blitter Palace says, thanks for the LC recipe. Would never have thought that cultivated mushrooms are compatible with dry yeast. Yeah, well, you're sterilizing the yeast. And as far as I understand it, breaking the cell walls, putting it open. You got to think yeast is a fungus. I just feel like it's got everything that it needs. I have found that my liquid culture that has yeast in it, it's a little bit cloudier in the beginning, but it does seem like it's growing faster. And it's crazy to me. But I read it in Paul Stamets' book. That's what made me do it. Or try it, and it worked great. Helen! What's up, Helen? Hi, Andrew. Thanks for the consultation. I encourage anyone who is serious about mushroom farming to book a consult with you. It saves time and money. I thank you. Guys, Helen is, well, I don't like to cuss, but Helen is a badass chick, guys. Oh, my gosh. I was talking to her I would like to just have her write a book and read her life story.
Yeah, Andrew's telling me some things, and it's,
yeah.
it's awesome.
And she's got one of the prettiest accents I've ever heard.
It's true.
Leon says, what is the coldest tip? And thank you for the kind words, Helen. I don't think that I thanked you just then. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Again, sometimes I'm terrible at reading people, and sometimes I'm terrible at reading situations and knowing what I'm supposed to do. So, again, I hope I didn't offend. Leon, what is the coldest temp you can grow pink oysters in? I've grown them down in 55 degrees. And they come out blood red. At least the strain we were growing did.
Now, we had other strains where they were just like really soft blush pink, or almost like a tan pink. I don't know. I didn't like that one.
No, I don't like those as much. One of my favorite strains of pink is actually from Everything Mushrooms. That strain beats North Spores and everyone else's to death. I mean, that pink.
It's like a hot pink.
It's a hot pink.
It's
when you grow it down in the cold, it turns like a red color. It grows very slowly too that way, and it is just super aggressive and tasty. It's the only one I've ever met that kind of has that like pinks taste like bacon kind of taste. That's the only Everything Mushrooms is the only one I've ever had that with.
And the clusters are really nice and meaty and just like tight. That way, whenever you pick them, it just really holds together very easily. I'm impressed.
Me too. I don't recommend all of their strains, but that one is one of my favorites. Hey, Homegrown Henry from Indiana. Welcome to the chat. Hi, Kevin. Justin L's right. Bob's going to get blocked. Shut up, Justin. Mind your business. Well, Bob, maybe you should mind yours a little better.
Oh,
oh my gosh, that last name.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, that's in a probes, dog. Yeah, I hear you, Wayne. It is really annoying. Diverite says, have you ever used spent beer brew grains? I have not. We've been offered. I know a lot of people that have used them with good success. My understanding is you have to have a very good sterilizer. Pasteurization is oftentimes not good enough because the grains are split open, and any kind of split grain is going to contaminate more easily than a whole grain.
I will say that we have been offered, and then there were quite other farmers who were after that spent grain, and one of them said that they fed them to their pigs. I don't know. I don't really know much about that.
I don't know much about that. Sporak says, do you cold shock any of your bags, or is your incubation room the same temp as your grow room? So kind of cold shock. Our incubation is usually kept around 70 degrees. Our grow rooms we try to keep them as cold as possible, but at least below 65. So hopefully that gives you an answer there. Campbell says, wonderful question. All y'all love story and self-belief shows how wonderful the right partnership can be. Thank you.
Aww,
yes.
Thank you.
100% yes.
I like it.
I like it too. I have a partner. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate it. I'm glad that it speaks highly of us. Adolf says, Viner seeing here from very entertaining, more love talk. Oh, well, if you guys really want some love talk, just, I guess just let us know. We can do it. Hey, Yakatan. It's not very nice.
He said joke.
I know. Adolf says, prove your love on cam. I don't know how we're supposed to do that. Love can't be proven.
I think it's obvious.
Yeah, thanks. Right? Thanks, Justin. He says, I love you guys. I'm a very happy client of Liquid Cultures, and I tune in on all the chats and videos and blogs. You guys are amazing. Thanks you, Justin. Thank you for the support, the purchase, the community. We really appreciate you guys a lot. Masrito said, that's great. Not enough stories like that now. I actually find, yeah, you're right. It's kind of crazy. Like, I wish everyone could share in the same happiness that I've shared in. It's a little unfair. Jose says, what is the first mushroom you ever cultivated? Oysters. Actually, if you go to my Instagram handle is at mycominer, MyCominer. You can see the very first cluster of mushrooms I ever grew. They look pitiful compared to what I can grow now. So,
and we put them on a plate.
We did put them on a plate. And it was a bag from Fungi Perfecti. From Paul Stamets' company. It was my first kit ever.
And we put it on a plastic shelf.
And wrapped it in saran wrap as our grow room.
And then hand sprayed it with the bottle.
Absolutely.
So it was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne, by the way. I don't know if I said that earlier, for taking care of that. Because he said little sounds good. Billy's Ashes, totally worth it. Y'all are awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, man. Thank you for the super chat. I'm glad you liked it, man. I like talking personal life, so... And there goes my daughter popping balloons. You know.
Well, we had a birthday party, and then they've been randomly popping and scaring us half to
Yes, they have.
death.
K-Max says, I have 1,000 square feet space to fruit and was wondering if a fan that has 5,250 cubic feet a minute of airflow is too strong. Not if you can adjust it down. If it's adjustable, it's like a potentiometer or a speed controller where you can pull it down. Probably not. In fact, it'd probably be nice to have that raw power just backed off all the time. I find that anytime I can buy something that's a little bit stronger but pull it back, it tends to last a little bit longer for me. And thank you. I'm glad that we're adorable. What's your thought on growing more morel indoors? I don't think it's worth the money yet. I'm hoping that it'll become worth the money one day soon. I hope somebody figures that out. But as of right now, I've not seen anyone that has proven to me that it is worth the money of getting into. Schrabenlorg says, well, when you say contamination may be an issue, might be contaminated cardboard beating the fungus to agar, or sterilizing agar in half-pint jars is a bad idea for some reason. So people do it in half-pint so long as the top can seal, and then you've got airflow, you're good. It's just, like, I don't know how long it's been since you did your transfer, but sometimes cardboard hides contaminations that you would normally be able to see if you do a straight-to-agar transfer. Now, I've done lots of cardboard spawn out in the field. I've had people make cardboard spawn and ship it to me, and then I clone it and send them a plate out, and then I can grow it out here. And there is that, but sometimes there can be bacteria or something in your initial transfer that you didn't quite catch. So if you unfold the agar and sample from different places, sometimes you can get a place that's clean. Another trick is to use something called water agar. I would prefer to go to malt extract agar and then water agar. And I'm going to be doing a video on that very soon. But basically, water agar is just water and agar. Oh my gosh, agar. I'm tired today, guys. And it's a non-nutritive agar that basically provides structure for the mycelium to grow across. But bacteria, it needs to eat where it is. Mycelium can transport food. So the mycelium can grow out. And you can see where it's grown out past that bacterial line. And you can select there, transfer that onto malt extract agar, and it'll explode with growth. And that's a good way of cleaning up cultures. I hope that helps. Mushrooms, Maddie says, thank you so much. You're very welcome, Mushroom, Maddie. Have you ever grown button mushrooms? No, I have not. I've not really tried. I've never wanted to bring manure compost into my basement. So, Michael Moa says, well, that's awesome. Do you guys do lion's mane? Says Robert.
Plus all that hauling, it's just not feasible for us where we live.
Yeah, for sure. Pellets are easy because they're bagged up. They're easy to carry around. So do I ever do lion's mane? No, I don't really grow lion's mane. We grow comb tooth and bear's head. They're very closely related to lion's mane, but we find that lion's mane sometimes has a bitter taste to it, and it might be great medicinally speaking, but comb tooth and bear's head are both better culinary mushrooms in my opinion, which is why we grow that. Plus, they grow really well in master's mix, and I try to standardize on a single substrate.
They also fill up that box really nicely, and additionally, they're so soft and sway that whenever you put them in the box, unlike lion's mane, they won't kind of bump up into each other and then bruise each other. So it's really nice to have that sort of flexibility as well.
I keep getting these flyaways I can't get rid of. Can you do my hair?
Sure. You better keep doing questions.
I'll do questions while you're doing my hair. Michael Mama
keep up with this.
says, speaking of the air over here in North Carolina, do you think from an economics point of view that central cooling or window units are better? It depends. If you've got the ability to make the long-term investment and allow the running cost to – thank you, Wayne, for getting someone else, man. You are on it. So anyways, what I was going to say is window units are usually more economical to purchase, but the central ACs are better to run. And if they're better, if you can afford to, don't you do what I think you're doing. Woman.
You asked for me to do your hair.
Well, you do it in the way that I like it. Swear.
You guys like that, I know. I gotta be mischievous
Mama,
every now and then.
Mama, I hope that answers your question. It's very distracting to try to answer this. No, you're fine. Basically, yeah, window units are what I went with because we rent this place and we might have to pick them up and take them with us. And it's going to, we don't have time for years and years.
Oh,
thank you, Samantha. We don't have time for years and years to have our central unit pay itself off by buying a new one or a mini split right now. Now, when we move to a warehouse where we get a long-term lease, we'll probably start doing more long-term investments. Plus, also, when we move from here, we'll be able to take those with us. And if we decide to live here or purchase this place, which is an option, then, the central AC will be plenty enough for the house as it is. There's no need to get anything more. And the mushrooms we're always planning to eventually move to a warehouse anyways.
I also think that the window units are an easier way to just up front go ahead and get that investment in at a smaller price point and get your income going versus a central heat and air unit, which for us is, for our square footage and everything, is close to probably $6,000-$7,000 in one pop. And so for some people that's a little more, it's just a little more easy to get the window units versus the whole big shebang.
Yep. So Paul Samus is talking about nutritional yeast and agar and liquid cultures, if I'm not mistaken. Nutritional yeast or yeast extract, or so my research shows. Yeah, so he is talking about nutritional yeast. And nutritional yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and it's the same yeast used to make bread and beer. So I mean that's what nutritional yeast is. So brewers and bakers, brewers and bakers yeast are they're different products, but apparently what I'm using is working well enough. I did it just to try it out, but you are correct that it was nutritional yeast that he was talking about originally. Scott says, do you think if I myceliated oat spawn, would that grow as quickly? I'm really interested in gaining health benefits by myceliating reishi and then eating the grain spawn. Page 147 of Radical Mycology. Yeah, so that's a good section. And you can absolutely do that. I will tell you that if you're growing on whole oats, it's going to be a bit fibrous. So it probably would be better to use something that's going to be a little softer, like rye, or maybe grow it on rice. Rice would probably be a good one. Or maybe even corn. So those are just guesses, but I think that it would work quite well. Whatever Peter suggests is probably going to work. The guy knows his stuff. Apparently yeast is yeast. Well, yeah, I mean, Justin, I'm not sure, man. I just know that what I'm trying seems to be working. I don't have any numbers as of yet for my trials. So you're just trying to skip the fruiting stage is what Scott says. Yeah, so, I mean, grain spawn's a good way to do that. Just grow in grain spawn and then consume the grain spawn. That's what a lot of people do for supplementation, things like that. Michael Mama, she's talking to Wayne. I'll skip that one. Spore says, you know much about using Douglas fir sawdust instead of hardwood fuel pellets? I know people use it, and they use it with really good success. Alder, Douglas fir, and hardwood fuel pellets all seem to work pretty interchangeably. Hardwood fuel pellets, I have an inkling that they probably perform a little better. But I don't know that that's necessarily true because lots of people talk about their Douglas fir actually incubates faster. So, it's a very, very, very dependent there.
You seem like you're doing okay. I'll go finish picking.
Yep. Go ahead. Yeah, Wayne's got my back.
Thank you, Wayne.
So does Lloyd and Miko Mama. So
gives me time to do my job. Oh my gosh, there's so much down there.
Yeah, I know. I went down there. I meant to go down there and pick, but we ended up sitting around talking with the family until right before this. So I'm actually a bit stretched today.
I can show you a box I picked up.
Yeah, bring a box by and show to people. Jose says, have you ever used Peptone in your LC or agar? I found small amounts of Peptone to help a lot for growth. I have not. I've heard about it. I'd forgotten about it, but I'll try it now. Thank you, Jose. Pluto, unless you're Josie. I'm hoping you're Jose. So tell me anytime I'm saying people's names wrong, guys, do not be afraid to tell me. I do not want to be mispronouncing people's names. I don't like that. Pluto says, when the time is right, I look forward to consulting with you. Thanks to you both. Yeah, Pluto. Absolutely, man. Bring it on. We love doing our consults, and I love having our students. So, bring it on, man. We'd love to have you. Let's see. Week says, love every video you guys do. Thank you, man. I'm not always as proud of every video equally, but I am proud of our trajectory for sure. And I will tell you guys, Robin has been killing it. She does a lot better job than I do, I feel like, on the editing. So, and thank you for watching those videos. Like a Maybelline commercial, man bun. Yeah. Well, I'm still learning how this long hair things work, how this long hair thing works. She's always liked me with longer hair. I've always been more woolly mammoth than I have been cleaned up. So I'm trying to figure out how to be a better looking man for her. And then Michael Moss says, man bun. And then Justice said, do my hair, woman. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I'm getting behind. Oh my gosh, look at that beautiful box. Are those the NGs?
I don't know.
Were they in the back wall in the small grow room?
The smaller grow room on the left side
Yeah,
in the very back.
that's the NG oyster. I knew it.
That's it.
That is a stately, elegant looking mushroom. I love that one.
And it has a really nice, like, just kind of rosette sort of.
It does.
Yeah, I like to set like 2 clusters side by side and make them look like one big cluster. I just think it's more impressive.
For sure.
But yeah. Also,
Beautiful.
we've been working on this traceability thing. So there's Sanborn in there as well as the NMG. So I need to change that.
Yeah, you got it written in snow.
I do. So thank you.
So yeah, Samantha does the strains that are in the box, the date that it was picked, the time that it was picked, and then the initials or rune sign of the person who picked
and I
it.
put it was the first box that I picked, and then I'll put
She'll
how
do
many
like
boxes I pick in total.
1 out of 2, or 2 out of 1. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Do 1 out of 1, 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3,
Yes.
1 out of 4. And it shows me exactly what sequence I picked them.
Right.
And then I'll show how many boxes I picked and all for that day. It just helps me see how much I harvested one day. And then I put that in a spreadsheet, who I delivered it to, what
Getting all of our
invoice number I attached to it. Yeah, and getting all the traceability down.
so that we get our MGAP certification when it's time to do that. No one says, where can you buy bulk pure hardwood pellets or substrate that is nicely priced? Right now I'm using Traeger pellets for reishi. I mean, I just buy mine from my farmer's co-op. And that's where the best price I found in the bulk amount. Spore Addict says, thoughts on using a big swamp cooler, evaporative cooler? Seems like it would be a lot better than window units for cost electricity. Yes, if it will work in your area, it's great. We're actually going to build one here because even though it won't work efficiently like it will out in the desert space, it will do something and it will pre-treat the air a little bit. So we're actually planning on doing that here or in the warehouse, depending where we're at this summer. We've actually talked about it and we think we're going to go ahead with the warehouse. So I think we're going to put our offer in Monday when the time comes. Use brown rice for medicinal mycelium. You can fry it up. Oh, that's a great idea, Justin. Yeah, brown rice for, like, I used to grow on BRF cakes, like edibles. I started off with edibles, but it ended up being a really good way to go. Just want to make sure. Now, I did use vermiculite and stuff in mine, so you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to do just brown rice flour, but good way to go. Wayne says, molds build up in swamp coolers from my experience. Yeah, they do, but they do in humidifiers too. So the best way to do, I think, is just to do weekly clean outs, which is what we do with our humidifier, our grow room fan, and what we would do with an HRV heat return, heat exchange, basically, until we can save on energy cost, and then a swamp cooler. So we're going to do a swamp cooler, humidifier, air conditioning, and a heat exchange. Awesome, Hatem. I'm glad I got your name right. I appreciate you letting me know. Hey, thanks. My name is Bader. Love you too. Well, those mushies are beautiful, elegant. Thank you, Campbell. Yeah, that NNG strain. I probably shouldn't tell the story on it. I might tear up on that one. But it is one of my favorite all-time oysters. It is a clone that I got right behind my Nana's house. So it's a very nice oyster. A lot of sentimental value. Almost lost it, and that really taught me how to do my cold storage and backups and stuff because I didn't want to lose that sentimental one. I mean, I'll lose any mushroom, like fire breaks out. I'm bringing my kids, my dogs, and that strain with me. So everything else can burn to the ground. Yeah, thanks, Wayne. It does look amazing. That box was nice. Farmer Mac, when you're properly loved, you're 10 times the man. I 100% agree. I will tell you that our relationship wasn't always super solid in the beginning. In the beginning, it took us a while to kind of learn to cleave together. When I learned to have get out of like the me mentality to start thinking about what I can do to foster a space for her to feel safe and secure and explore her own self. Those kinds of things really made, I just had to put in a little bit of effort and I got 10 times the response back. So I agree, man. When you're properly loved, you're 10 times the man. And when you're 10 times the man, you're putting that much back in your woman, and she's giving you 10 times that. So it just builds and builds and builds. Spore Addict says, do you guys put those ventilation holes in the cardboard boxes? We have to put them in. So one way that we do it is usually by knife with a box, or if I'm feeling froggy and want to get ahead of the game, I'll take a drill bit, but I haven't done that in a while. A drill bit and just go through all of the boxes. It doesn't do them very evenly because it'll do like some on the front and some on the side, but it works out really well, and you can do a whole bunch of boxes at once. Leon says, "Love runes, pagan mushroom gang." Yeah, man, we're something else for sure. Shravin Long, I've got the impression AR alone can sidestep contamination problems. This may be my next move. What is the amount of AR alone to water? So yeah, if you're talking the water agar, which is the non-nutritive agar, I do 10 grams agar to 500 milliliters water. And you can just use tap water. I have found that tap water works great. Jose, what are some integrated pest management practices you use to minimize insects in the grow room? So crop rotation, not allowing your blocks to fruit more than twice, keeps contamination from building up. The dry fog that we use, not only does it increase yields because mushrooms are able to take up that certain particle size up very easily and increase their weights that way, and get bigger and be fed better. But that dry fog doesn't stick around, and so it actually doesn't allow a lot of bacterial growth. Our floors aren't super wet all the time. They do get wet occasionally, and usually if I have wet floors 3 or 4 days in a row, it means I need to lower my bracket. So like right now I'm sitting at 85% relative humidity at my peak with 65% at my lowest, I think. And so it does this big swing, which allows me to get a good dry spell to keep bacteria down. As far as your flies, like forward flies, scared flies, the fungus gnats, those things, just buy regular fly paper from Walmart and hang that between your sections of shelves, somewhere where they're going to like land on a mushroom and then go and land on that fly paper. And a lot of people don't like to use that fly paper, but it's just pine rosin. It's completely safe. It's good stuff. There's not poison in it like they used to do. Michael Moss says, congratulations. I really hope that happens for you guys. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little nervous about the warehouse, to be honest. It's going to be a good move. It's kind of like a nervo excited, nervous and excited both. It's a big step. It's a bigger step than I've ever taken. I have run this business entirely off cash flow generated by the business, except in the very early stages when Samantha was working full time. She was funding me somewhat in the very beginning, but then this thing is taken off entirely off cash flow beyond that. Sorry, I take that back. We did have 2 initial investors who bought 10% each. One of them we bought back out, and one of them is a silent partner. But I mean, that was only, a couple grand, and got me my flow hood and a space to initially start out in. So, which was very helpful and very needed at the time. But I took on no debt, is what I'm trying to say. And it's a little scary to go into something this big and realize it's all on me, which is not. It's on the whole team. And I've got a lot of good backup and a really good crew. So I don't think we're going to have a problem, but it's a big step. Just said, no vermiculite, just brown rice for all medicinal mycelium. Just spawn, just the brown rice, great to eat. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. And I know you can do brown rice flour from liquid culture. I know that. So you could just take your liquid culture, test clean, inoculate your brown rice cakes, and go from there. So which means I would underhydrate them a little bit. What temps do you shoot for in the lab and grow room? My lab is right around 75 degrees. I like to keep it on the very edge of warmth. A lot of people like to keep theirs cool because it keeps contamination down. I like mine warm because it allows contamination to bloom early, which means in my daily checks, I'm spotting it early, throwing those out, getting them out, and getting them out of the way. I might need to take my flow days again. Let's see. Kevin, how much is a box like that worth? Kevin, if you're still here, which I hope you are, that box is an $80 case of oysters. Just said, Andrew, I hated all the sediment in my liquid culture, so I PC'd for 5 minutes, Then coffee filter out the solids. It's clear after that, yeast and all. Yeah, I've kind of considered doing some of that stuff, but I found I did hate the sediments at first, but now it's the sediments get grabbed up by the mycelium really quickly, and I don't worry about them like I used to. Usually the sediment's cleared up by the time that it's ready to start testing anyways. And so that clarity that you're looking for to see if a culture is clean, that's there by the time you need it. You just kind of have to trust your process in the beginning. Scott says, thanks for the brown rice idea to Justin. That seems like the best idea. I think it is, Scott. You should definitely try that. See if it works. Jose says, I'm messing around with using pre-cooked organic rice packs and inoculating them with LC. The idea is that the packs are pre-sterilized. Works well to grow my son. That sounds like a cool thing, man. Yeah, let us know how that goes. I'd be interested in that. Justin L says, I lost it. 5 to 6 hours soak for brown rice or 10-minute boil. You want the center of the rice to have a hard, teeny tiny center. Rinse and dry. If in jars, no gypsum. If you eat it, no gypsum if you eat it. If in spawn bag, it's easier. That makes sense to me that it would be easier in a spawn bag. Probably, maybe even do it in the smaller spawn bags, like the 2-pound ones, like the tall, skinny ones. Spore Addict, tell us more about the warehouse. Haha, where and when? So the warehouse is it'll be closer to Knoxville than where we're at. Like, we're in Jeff City. We're looking at a section between here and Knoxville. Will probably be like it's 5,500 square feet, so it's a pretty big space. It'll be split. Like Ben's starting his business soon. Ben's starting his business this calendar year, and so Ben's business and my business will be renting it out together. And then a third friend of ours needs a place to store equipment. He may be going in with us on it as well. Most of that space will be split between Ben and I. Ben's fabrication shop, where he's going to be starting to build baggers, and we have a loading dock where we're going to be at, which gives us the ability to freight that stuff across the United States. It also allows me to produce fruiting blocks and freight those all across the United States. Gives me a large place where I can get good liability insurance to do a lot of in-person classes, consultations, actually get students for the whole summer. We may even build like a small dormitory in there where people can stay and like stay for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, come and like just day in and day out work the system with everybody, and then hang out with us on the weekends, kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff coming up with that warehouse, and I think that it's going to be easy to make the money to pay for it all, and especially with us splitting it and everything else. It's just, I don't know, guys. You know how it is. You take a big step in life, like in a direction that you've dreamed about for years. You've been planning and scheming, and all of a sudden something's coming to fruition. That's a bit nervous. It's nerve-wracking for sure. So Michael Mama says, you got this all day long. Have faith in yourself and Sam, and you know you can do anything. I agree. Like I said, I've got good backup, and I appreciate that, Michael Mama. It is nice to know that we've got so much support, especially in the Myco community, we'll call it, the syndicate. The Mushroom Syndicate. It's nice to know that we've got faith and backup in us, like faith from you guys and backup from you guys and my whole crew. When I hired Jason and Laura and Robin, Melanie was our very first employee ever, so she never got this little talk, but I told them I wanted them to be my vicious pirate crew. Like, I wanted them to come in. I wanted them to recognize that, we're not here to, basically I wanted them to be hungry for it, is what I told them. Actually, that's exactly what I told them. I wanted them I wanted them to be hungry for it. I wanted them to show up for it. And we wanted to fight every day. We wanted to be that vicious pirate crew. We're going to think about things sideways. We're going to be individualistic. We're not going to, I want them to come to me when they need something, but they don't need a lot of hand-holding. And I think a lot of that's because I've got good quality people working for me. So expat, yeah, Kevin, you're very welcome. I hope that helped. Yeah, it's a good thing, man. I mean, a king oyster case of the same size is worth $100, and a specialty mushroom case of the same size, like chestnuts, black poplar, comb tooth, bear's head, etc., we sell for $120 a case. So the oysters are our workhorse mushroom. That's the most we sell, and I'd say it represents about 80% of our yearly income. Expat says, have you ever tried using antibiotics to fight bacterial contamination? I've tried it. I didn't like it. I find technique means a whole lot more. I don't like antibiotics. I feel like they're kind of a crutch. So I think it's better just fail 100 times and get that technique down, which is also why I say that people should start working backwards. Start with growing the mushrooms before you get into lab work, because that's how you get your early successes. Your lab work, you don't want to develop any bad habits and crutches that you go along the way. K-Max says, is Ben connected to your channel or website? Yeah, I mean, it's Ben Erickson. He's one of the owners. We sold 10% to a buddy of ours. Excuse me, those hiccups are back. We sold 10% to a buddy of ours. He wanted to know if we wanted to buy him back out when we were able to, and we did. And so we bought him back out. And then when I saw that I had the chance to have Ben, who I've known Ben since 3rd grade, and my buddy Charles since 6th. And, you know, when it came to the ability to get Ben in on the business because he was interested in it. Yeah. I mean, I basically just brought him in because Ben is amazing. So Ben does a lot of fabrication for us. If you can see our Prometheus video, our Thor video, Ben is a genius at building something that makes your life way easier with no money. And as he's been getting money, he's building this awesome stir plate that I was talking about too. It's like B-17 themed. He's built our boiler, our steamer. He has built, gosh, guys, I can't even begin to tell you how, like, Ben's fingerprints are all over this business. So yeah, he's very connected. He's an integral part. He's actually technically CTO, Chief Technology Officer of Mossy Creek Mushrooms. Not that it means a lot in a small organization like ours, but is what it is. Justin says, Andrew, got to run. Thanks for everything. Fixing to expand Masters of the King Blue, baby. Hey, man, yes. Let me know how it goes. Please, pictures, man. Tag me and tag Mossy Creek Mushrooms on Instagram if you've got one. And at Mako Miner, man. I'd love to see those babies. That mushroom is that's my first baby ever. It's my first creation. I want to see it in other people's hands. Going back up real quick, just because he was getting there. Miko said, I didn't mean to make you cry, brother. You just you were just kick ass, and so you're talking about the jump is only natural. Yeah, thankfully I'm not like crying, it's just oh heck, you weren't crying, it's your sinuses. Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say I'm not crying yet. You get me talking about the N&G oyster, and I'll be a little bit bawling on here, so or at least tearing up pretty something fierce. But yeah, man, it is very nervous, but it's not cry kind of nervous. I've been through this business whenever we had no money and I was trying to figure out how to pay people and bills and everything else. I mean, and that kind of stress, I don't know that I'll ever break according to work stress again after, having that kind of anxiety from before and learning to deal with it. So, hey, Wayne's got another one. Bam. The band hammer. All right, Wayne, you're on top of it, man. I like this. Thank you, man. Jeremiah said they call that the Spider-Man tech. Well, because they used Uncle Ben's rice at first, the pre-cooked. So why Spider-Man? Oh, Uncle Ben. Yeah. Okay, I got it. I like that. Okay, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. Expat Prepper says, what book would you recommend for a startup menu for someone just getting to the hobby of mycology? So, yeah, man, Wayne, thank you. You're awesome. So, Radical Mycology is the one I keep coming back to just because it is so full of information. If it's your first, it will absolutely overwhelm you. But I've been reading this book for over a year now, and I still learn something every day that I get into it. So I'm actually going to have to put it down for a little bit because I just signed up for the Odin's genetic engineering courses, like we're actually it's just the first series, but I'm starting those up soon. And so I'll probably have to put down most of my reading for a little bit while I'm taking these courses because I want to try to hit these hard and heavy and really get caught up. I want to be able to do genetic analysis, build out a genetics lab. Most interesting to me is being able to do at least genetic profiles of each strain And then as I continue to breed out strains, I'll be able to prove parentage and actually be able to track program, do a tracking program of all of my strains that go up for sale, and be able to offer, those list outs for it. But going completely back to your original question, see, I told you guys I ramble all the time. Peter McCoy's Radical Mycology is the place where I would definitely start off. It's a good one. It has a lot of really, really good information in it, and it will keep you interested for years, I think. That said, he keeps calling it the Fungi Kingdom, and I hate that. I hate it so much. It's just confusing. Like, we already have the Fungi Kingdom. We don't need to be messing with that. However, that is a completely minor thing, and it is just what it is. So I think it's a good way to go because he's got so much good information. Just recognize you'll feel overwhelmed, and that's okay. Just know it's okay to be overwhelmed. Let's see. Just a second, guys. All right, we got... how many blocks do you need to harvest to fill up one of those boxes with those beautiful mushrooms? So it's roughly 3. 3 is the average. I think in that one she had 4. If you have, so mainly it's 3 oysters. We take 1 goes in a box, 1 goes in a box, and then you break another cluster in half and put it in there. Oh my gosh. Is that a king?
You need an umbrella?
Or is that a blue?
It's an oyster. It's a blue.
That's a blue oyster. Oh my gosh. That does look like...
the only one on its block.
It does look like an umbrella. That is crazy.
Look at these pretty scalloped edges. Like, I'm blown away. I'm amused.
I just wonder why they scallop like that.
I don't know. I guess the sheer size, I'd say they don't really have,
Oh my goodness, that stem's kind of hard though.
That's got a lot of weight to support.
It does have a lot of weight to support. That's
I
true.
just thought you'd find that interesting.
That is.
Anyway.
That's crazy. Wayne said, wow. Anyways, Kevin, it's roughly 3 blocks. So 4 if you're yielding a little low or if you're picking early, which a lot of times we'll pick early. If you pick early, you don't really have to worry about it. You'll get that weight that you're missing on your second flush. So yeah, Mama, that would feed a small nation, that's for sure. Jose says, what's up with the Deritter and the NNG oyster mushrooms? What's the difference on those? So the Deritter is from a friend. Oh, crap. His plugs up in Knoxville. I was meant to deliver those yesterday. I need to call him back. Anyways, the Deritter was there's a guy that harvests mushrooms and sells them to me so I can resell them to restaurants, like mainly my Taki, Chicken of the Woods. He found that oyster. It's a very good oyster. It's very much like an elm oyster. I find that it does a little bit better in cold weather than the elm oyster does. And it's a little less prone to contamination than some of the elms, which is good because elms are already less prone to contamination than many other strains. The NNG oyster is a very savory mushroom. Like, whenever you're busting up oyster mushroom mycelium or an oyster mushroom, you're breaking apart, it's got a very sweet smell to it. The NNG is very savory. Like, it has very little sweetness to it. There's almost no sweetness to it, but it does, like, you taste it. It's just an amazing. Ben took a bunch of them, cut them into real long strips, fried them up till they were crispy, topped them on a salad, and my gosh, those things were just phenomenal. The stem on the NNG can be slightly fibrous. That's really not a problem. Most people use stems for stocks or anything anyways, but the flesh on the inside of the stem is really, really good. You just got to make sure you pick it before it gets a little fibrous. And the NNG was found here locally as well. The Deritter was found up in Knoxville. The NNG was found over at my Nana's place, which is why it's called NNG. It's called the Nana and Gramps oyster, which is, there's that. So we won't get into that story right now. I mean, whatever. It's up to you guys. If you want to hear the story of the NNG, we'll go with it. If you don't, we won't. But just know if we do, I'm probably sniffling a little. Let's see. I want to work with you when you expand. Hey, Jose, I don't know where you're at, but we'll definitely be up in our labor whenever when we expand out. Scott says, love Radical Mycology. I bought it on your recommendation. I know, man. Isn't that an incredible book? Like, Peter is so dialed in to what he's doing. And And he fits in very much with that motif. Ben and I and Samantha have talked about this for a very long time before we did YouTube. We didn't know that we wanted to start this. We didn't know that we wanted to share with you guys. I was a little scared that I'd run myself out of business. And Ben's the one that really talked me into sharing and opening up to you guys. There's a book we read called A Deepness in the Sky. It's about these space traders, and they have these things called the Chenko transmissions where they share information to help bring people up to a higher civilization status. And anyways, it's obviously influenced by the open source movement. And Ben really convinced me, like, look, man, let's go open source. Let's work this. He's like, you will find that it comes back to you tenfold. And man, was he right. And that's kind of why we really got into that. So I feel like radical mycology is right there with it. I mean, I know the book's expensive, but man, he's got to print it. He's got to make a little bit of money to live on. Otherwise, he can't do this thing. So I don't begrudge him that it's a little bit of an expensive book. It's actually cheap compared to a lot of other mushroom growing manuals. So especially for as much information as it contains. I'd like to meet Peter McCoy one day. Pretty sure he and I are exactly opposites on the political spectrum, but that doesn't matter in the mushroom world when we're both working on something so grand and beautiful, much bigger and larger than anything political could be. So, wow, and that would feed a small nation. Yeah, that mushroom was crazy. I like that one. You're welcome, Kevin. I'm glad that helped, or I hope that helped at least. Mango fever. How do we develop new varieties? I can't grow kings without an air conditioning. I want to cross it with a milky mushroom. So there you're talking about hybridization. That is not that's not going to be an easy cross. I've not made any hybrids, so I don't really know. You can cross strains that are within the same species very easily. As far as the only thing I've ever heard of for making hybrids that's any sort of systematized is taking some sort of snake venom, and I don't remember which one, and using that to dissolve the cell walls and allowing the genetic information to mingle and then putting it back somewhere, like washing it somehow. And I don't know all of it, but it's definitely one of those things that is possible. And I've actually heard oyster mushroom species will hybridize by spore occasionally, but it's not always a fertile cross. So, as far as making new varieties, it's pretty easy, man. I mean, you take spores of two different varieties. You can put them like the V-stroke is what I learned from Sydney Oversingleton a while back. That's the way a lot of people do it, or two lines, a spore streak here, or spore streak from each one, like one going this way and one going that way, selecting from where they meet in the middle on either variety and trying it out. So, and then you just sector out all the little colonies you see, growing them out. Spore Addict says, you're the man making this life possible for people like us. Well, I hope so, man. I want it to be more possible for you guys than it was for me. It took me 10 years ago now that I started growing mushrooms, so a decade. And I'm just now getting to the point that I'm at. And I'm moving faster than my teacher taught me. And now there's stuff on the internet that, man, when I do consults anymore, I'm getting people up and running and profitable in 3 to 6 months, profitable within the first year. That wasn't possible when I first started, or at least if it was possible, it was beyond my grasp. I mean, it's crazy. I love this open source community. I mean, it blows my mind. Anyways, we want to see you cry. All right, thanks, Campbell. Michael Mama says, tell the story. Sporex says, tell the story. Jose says, tell it. Michael Mama, tell it. Helen, tell it. Okay, I'll tell it. And it's not a very long story, and it's not even that touching or anything. It's just, it's sentimental to me. But okay. I was really close to my grandfather growing up. I was raised with him, raised in his house, and he taught me a lot of things about life. He's the one that really, I think, got me into science. He is. He worked as a chemical engineer for American Inca. He was the top chemist. He used to tour Europe during the Cold War, setting up plants in places that were devastated by World War II, and were like on their way up. Like he helped set up a polymer factory in the Netherlands. He went to Spain. His father, the man I'm named after, Andrew Collier, worked here at Y12, which is the atomic facility here in Knoxville or Oak Ridge. And, we got a cool little atomic bomb model where Gramps used to tell the story. He asked his dad, like, what are you guys doing there at that place? And his dad's like, you can't, I'm making parts or whatever for the war effort. And then eventually he came home one day. He was a machinist. And he came home with this model atomic bomb, and he handed it to Gramps, and he said, that's what we're making. I don't want to hear another word about it. Or maybe he just handed it to him and said, I don't want to hear another word about it. And that was, anyways, that's not either here or there. So my grandfather died a couple years ago. Anyways, he died a couple of years ago, and he and I were very, very, very close. And he had this sweet gum tree cut down right before he died, and he and I grew up cutting wood together. He had a farm. Oh my gosh, it's been 2 years, man. You think I'd be able to talk about it at least. Anyways, long story short, I found this oyster mushroom growing on this stump and logs that were falling down. Can you guys give me just a second? I'll be right back. All right. Okay, I'm better. Just needed to grab something to wipe my eyes. So anyways, I found that, went up there, and he hadn't finished cutting up these logs. And holy crap, it's back. Anyways, I found these oyster mushrooms growing on these logs where he hadn't finished cutting it. And took it home, I cloned it, and I grew it, and it turned out to be this amazing oyster. And that amazing oyster became the NNG, Nana and Gramps oyster, because it is as beautiful as Nana and as tough as Gramps. And I've always kind of, oh my gosh, I've always kind of felt like it's his last gift to me. He used to give me stuff. We used to go canoeing all the time, that kind of stuff. So, man, guys, that hit me harder than I thought, dude. It's weird opening it up to strangers, which I know we're not all strangers, but that's a lot. So, anyways, you guys are gonna make my contacts fall out. I won't get into it any more than that. He was an amazing man. So. Let's see. Scott says, sharing is the way for sure. I've learned so much so fast. Yeah, I'm glad, man. I'm hoping that we're part of that. And I hope people, I have a lot of respect for Eric Myers, who actually started his channel about a year before I did. And TR Davis of Earth Angel Mushrooms, Jewel. We miss Jewel a lot. I wish she was still in the industry. And there's 100 others. Oakenspore. Oakenspore is one of my favorites to watch these days. That guy's crazy. So, Michael Mama says we win. Yeah, you won that one. Gus says, how long does it take for Master's Mix to hydrate after adding the water? I mean, we use hot water, and hot water hydrates much faster. So, it's the way to go. And, thank you, Scott. You said it's like people like us paving the way. I appreciate it, man. I do feel like an old timer in this business sometimes. It's a little weird. I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. A lot of businesses come and go. There's probably been 10 mushroom farms that have come through Knoxville since I started. There were probably 4 when I did start, and they're all out of business now. So, K-Max says, I'm sorry. I guess, yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. He was an amazing man. For sure. And Michael, Mama, I didn't mean to get you crying too. Thank you, Campbell. I really, guys, it's I appreciate that very much. It's a little hard seeing all that too. You guys go make me a crying little baby tonight. My goodness. Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that, man. I grew up in a very emotional family. We're still very clannish. We're still get together all the time, and we're very, very close. So, might need that Flonase. Oh crap! I lost you guys. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, so you say mad respect for a man who shows emotions. Little story. My grandfather's brother was in prison for a while. So you had one who was like chemical engineer, one guy who was a machinist, top of his class. That was my grandpa's brother, and then you had another one called Lil Dean, who was apparently one of the most brilliant mechanics my grandfather had ever met, but didn't always do things the way they should be done lawfully. And he definitely spent some time in prison. He could be kind of a hard man, but he's also the kindest, sweetest, gentlest gentleman. I mean, he used to like knit and crochet things like people stuff like while he was in prison and send it to people. And nobody could tell you that hey, the guy wasn't a tough son of a bitch, but he was also apparently very open. And that's what I've always felt like is if if you're pretty secure in who you are, like I'm a pretty big dude, I can cry. Nobody's gonna say anything to me, right? I can get away with it. Michael, Mama, don't feel like an a-hole. I love you guys too, and you're a part of this community. You guys, we're good. Like I wouldn't have told it if I didn't want to. You guys didn't put me into anything I didn't want to be in. So, but I appreciate the support. I really do, guys. I really, really do. That is, it's an amazing mushroom on its own merits, but it's also got a lot of sentimental value, obviously. Thank you, K-Mac. I appreciate it. Yes, you're very welcome, man. I'm happy to share. I'm always happy to share my authentic self with you guys. So, and if that's a crying mess, it's a crying mess. And if it's a happy-go-lucky guy, it's a happy-go-lucky guy. I wouldn't be the happy-go-lucky guy I am if I couldn't show my anger and my sadness when I needed to. Just wouldn't. At least not authentically happy. Lawrence says, no shame in shedding a few tears. Oh, that's another crying quote. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I really do. Thank you. I don't feel any shame. So don't think I do, guys. I really appreciate that. I don't feel shame. If I felt shame, I'd go hide or something like that. And I'm not. So, yeah, Paul, Oak and Spore is like honestly one of the best creators out there on the platform right now. I wish his channel was much bigger than it is. I selfishly wish that I was better than him, but I like that guy a lot. He's really cool. Sporadic, Jewel isn't growing mushrooms anymore. No, and I won't call you guys strangers. I mean, you know what I mean. Yeah, Jewel's not growing anymore. Jewel had issues with her landlord and so stopped growing. And she told me she thought it was the worst thing in the world when it happened to her. And she ended up having a family medical emergency. I won't go into any details, Jewel, but just in case you're watching. But she ended up telling me that it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to her getting out of the business. She says she misses it, but she didn't need it. She didn't need the money. She didn't need any of that stuff. She was really glad to be there for family when they needed to be, when she needed to be. So it worked out for the best, honestly. And I've talked to Jewel since, and I could still talk to her today. It's just sad that she's not one of us growing anymore because she was one of the few women that you really get to see out there putting this out there, which was a weird sentence, but you know what I mean? Like it's she was a strong woman, and she was obviously a very happy and authentic person. And I think we need a lot more people like that. Like she's willing to share. She's willing to get out there. She's willing to show you guys when she was doing it wrong. And there's not very many people out there who are willing to get out there and show you how wrong they're doing it. I mean, yeah, it's a little weird. I feel like, but we miss her. Gus says your children will be better for the closeness of your family. Yeah, I think so, man. It's crazy. Sorry, I was reading ahead. I agree. It's a little strange. The clannishness is tearing down just a little bit. You got to imagine that same grandfather I was talking about. He went from um, pooping in a hole in the ground and living in a place without, like, he used to wake up with snow on his blankets because they didn't have, they had cracks in their walls and stuff. In fact, the house that he was born in fell down just right after he died. Which we got some of the wood from that. We're going to try to build something with it. But he went from that to seeing all the technological wonders he did, touring the world, setting things up, loved bluegrass music, that kind of stuff. And it's nice to have a lot of the technological developments we have, the infrastructure that we have, but it's definitely been wearing on the clan system around here. A lot of people don't live by it at all anymore. My families are kind of holdouts a little bit. We still have a family home that we go visit regularly. We still have family land that we make use of. People garden. Like I used to garden on that land. My cousin currently gardens on it. Or at least we did last year. I mean, nobody's gardening on it right now in the middle of winter. And it's nice having that. I mean, I grew up. My kids aren't growing up with Aunt Bucky and Gigi snapping beans on the porch with Nana and Gramps. And Gigi was my great grandmother, and Aunt Bucky was her sister. But they're not growing up with that kind of stuff. Hearing the old Jack Tales, which I have a book. My kids do hear some of the old Jack Tales, but not the same ones I heard. Like, the book is different. And so I think that it's better for it. My kids get a lot of the more clannish, that close-knit familyness than a lot of other kids at school. Apparently, even though we're holdouts, even though the system is worn even on my family, apparently it's worn on a lot more families, and that makes me sad. So I hope I didn't go that too long, guys. I noticed my numbers have dropped just now. That's okay. We're here to build a community. We're not here for the numbers. Let's see. Where are we at? Campbell says, okay, changing the subject. What's that book? A Deepness in the Sky. I think Samantha's got it right behind me. She put it in there on the shelf over there. Collier, will you grab that for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, son. So he's going to bring that back. I'm going to go to the next question, and then I'll get back to you, Campbell. Or never mind, he's back already. Thank you, sir. A Deepness in the Sky. And it's by Werner Venge. And that and A Fire Upon the Deep. This is a little slower. I like this one better, but it's a little slower. A Fire Upon the Deep is a fast-paced thriller. It's a chase across a galaxy. And it's got in the Deepness of the Sky, there is no faster than light travel. In A Fire Upon the Deep, even though it's about one of the same characters, it has faster than light travel. So I think I said that right. But anyways, it's about these space traders. A Deepness is a particular called the Chang Ho. They're very open source. They're very free market. They have ship names like the Invisible Hand, obviously, but they meet a very tyrannical society. That tyrannical society, one of the great things about that book is the Chang Ho view the Invisible Hand as the invisible hand of the free marketplace, whereas the Emergent view that same ship as the invisible hand, right? Like as the tyranny, the invisible hand that moves pieces, the invisible hand that controls society, that kind of thing. And it's just weird to see the cultural difference between these humans in this whole setup, especially amongst these traders who, are having to cross these long distances. And I mean, that book blew my mind. It really focused a lot on it. Like, I read it in high school. I knew I wanted to be a merchant from the day I was born, but that book cemented the fact that I wanted to be a space merchant one day. So, weird, I know. Jose says, you only have the grain bags with NK or no LC? With NK. NK. I'm not getting the abbreviation, man. Can you clarify? I apologize. Miss Redwina says, I miss Jewel as well. Yeah, like I said, she was great. Oh my God, that's what I called my great grandmother. Lol, we were all so close. Makes me miss the old days. Yeah, Michael, Mama, I feel you. The old ways some of them are making a return and some of them are not. And I think that we're heading in a good place as a society, but there are certain things that I kind of miss about the old ways. And I'm not gonna say the good old days because I don't think the dying of dysentery was a good old day, but there is that. Campbell says, "Thank you, I love that." Yeah, man, that book is fantastic. If you like sci-fi, it's I think it's considered hard sci-fi, but I consider it more of a soft sci-fi on terms with Dune, where there is some technical stuff in there, but not much. It's mainly about interpersonal relationships in a sci-fi setting, which I actually prefer, like Dune, Deepness of the Sky, Fire Upon the Deep, like Ender's Game, things like that. Much prefer that, like seeing what thought experiments about what humans can do in a very alien setting than what we have now. So, Instant Regret says me what? I don't know. I don't know. You something. Well, it looks like I'm caught up on the chat. Is that what we're gonna do tonight, guys? Or we got more? I'll give it just a second. Give me some water. Chat Bear. All right. How can one harvest the mycelium? So go how you harvest the mycelium for what? From liquid culture? If you do that, it's usually syringes. You want to make sure it's chopped up, not a big growth mat. So I mean that'd be the way to harvest the mycelium as far as I know. So yeah, Michael Mama, I have no doubt. No doubt at all. Kale says, finding it hard to find reliable, sterile pet petri dishes or good value glass petri dishes. Any suggestions? The good value glass, no, I don't have any. Normally, when you want really good valuable glass, you're going to have to just pay the premium on it. Sterile petri dishes, yes. Fisher Scientific sells all kinds of dishes, usually in cases of 500, so it is more expensive. But Everything Mushrooms also sells pre-sterilized dishes. I think it's $9.50 a sleeve of 20, could be 25, but they're pretty good. It's not pre-poured. If you're wanting pre-poured, there aren't very many good pre-poured suppliers out there. So honestly, if one of you wants to get on that, start providing. I mean, there are people who do it, but none that I have found to be my favorite sources that are also a good price. So yeah, if anyone you lean into the lab work side of things, making pre-poured dishes for hobby growers probably would be a decent way to get a little chunk of change. I don't think there's a ton of money in it, but there is some. So, and my nose is still stopped up from that little cry session you guys had me going. How do you get your Enoki to pen? So Perry Fire, I don't do anything special for anything that pins. I find that anytime I have to work a little harder to get something to go, I don't mess with it. So the biggest thing for me is we cut the small square that we do for our oysters and allow the golden Enoki to pin the way it does. So, hey guys, I don't know who's watching TV, but turn it down. Thank you, Hazel. Sporadic says, get philosophical with it. What do you want me to get philosophical about? We'll talk about it. I'm okay going on forever. I'm just chilling tonight, guys. I'm not a money-making session. So, Jose says, sorry, man, do you have LC of Energy or just the grains book? I have LC of it. If it's not on the website, let me know, and I'll tell Melanie and have her put it up there. But, yeah, we definitely have it in LC. My mom said, okay, so your LC, do you peel the mic off with your agar or just throw it all in? Usually I just cut a very small chunk and throw it in agar and all, just a small little square out of a dish. And that's usually the best way to go, I find. Not collecting from the border of a dish. What? Oh, not collecting from the border of a dish or the very center, but somewhere along the medium. Or the middle. He's got me all kinds of mess. He's sitting there just staring at me all creepily. My son just. I hope you're happy, boy. Let's see. Michael Mama says I pour plates. Yeah. So maybe see if you can't. I'm happy. See if you want to sell some. Get them tested and everything else. MEA and MEA plus. Not a lot of money, but I like helping. So guys, yeah, get with Michael Mama if you need pre-poured plates. I'm not planning on getting into that business for a very long time, if ever. Mango Fever. How many average pounds of Black Pearl King do you get with a 5-pound dry master mix and 7 pounds water? I don't. Oh, okay. You're not asking about 5-pound blocks. The 12-pound blocks. We're getting anywhere from 3 to 4 pounds first flush. It's most of my oysters seem to yield about 5 pounds. The Black Pearl's a little on the high side, but yeah, I mean it's about 3 to 4 pounds. I mean, like there's a monster I picked on that video that I've got up where it's like a 4-pound flush. So that's not always. It's not normal. I think I'd say the average is much closer to 3 pounds, but then a good 2-pound second flush, if not more. Billy Nash, you mentioned Mike Tyson in another video. I mentioned Mike Tyson in another video, and he does pre-poured dishes and a subscription service for them also. Oh, okay. So I was thinking, he and I were talking at some point, and I was thinking that he was telling me that I should become a pre-poured supplier. But yeah, dude rocks out. Like I like the Mike Tyson guy. He's on Instagram is where I found him, and I know he focuses on mainly hericiums like lion's mane, comb tooth, and the like. Dude, I find him fascinating, and he and I've talked back and forth a couple times. Very, very small. I wouldn't mind meeting that guy. He doesn't look like he's far from me. So, Undung, welcome, man. In a hot climate like Florida, do you think it's possible to grow outside with a greenhouse and some covers to keep the temp a little lower? Not a big business, but just eat. I think that Florida would be a great place to do milky mushrooms. They grow them in India all the time. So I would love to try that outdoors because they don't have a lot of HVAC control in India, and yet they're still growing the milky mushroom. And I've got the LC for that, and in fact, I made a grain master of it. I'm planning on doing some tests at lower temperatures to see if I can get it to fruit at lower temps, but I have not there yet, and I'd like to build an incubator to try on, see if I can get it warmer temps before the summertime comes. Because if the summertime comes and I can get those milkies growing, and that can be one of my summer mushrooms, I think I can make bank through the summer, which is currently my hardest hit time of year. So, I mean, you can see it. Like, it's like, oh, crap, no. I was about to start talking money. Anyways, you can see a big dip through the summertime. Forget sometimes. But yeah, that would be, so if you're going to do it just to eat, maybe try pink oysters, gold oysters in the summer, milky mushrooms, go towards those hot varieties. But I think you can do it in a greenhouse, especially if it's shaded. I know people in middle Georgia, my first students ever, who now run a very large gourmet mushroom farm just outside of Atlanta in a place called Talking Rock. And they kill it through the summer and everything. And they were growing in greenhouses to begin with. They now grow an indoor facility, but they use that greenhouse to make the money to get the indoor facility going. And they rock out like crazy. So I think it's possible. Saltine Cracker, how's it? Oh, man, what's going on, Saltine? Chat Bear, I want to harvest the mycelium to put into pills to take on the daily. How would I go about doing that? Okay, so there's 2 ways that you can do that. One is to grow it in liquid culture, drain it. You're going to get much purer mycelium that way, but you're not going to get it'll take a lot more to fill up a pill, like a capsule. As far as you can grow it on grain and then lay the grain out, dry it out, grind it up, and then throw that in capsules. And you want to make sure that grain spawn is really well and grown in. That way the mycelium is all the way through the grain. Jose says the Energy Oyster LC is not on the website yet. Okay, I'll talk to Melanie about it. I'll get it up in the next couple of days. Week's end of next week by the latest. What is your average BE? I don't follow biological efficiency. But if you're talking, I mean, it's roughly 100% in 2 flushes. If you're talking biological efficiency from dry weight to dry substrate weight to wet pounds picked, it'd be about 100%. I'm getting about 5 pounds total off of a block within 2 flushes. But I don't follow biological efficiency. I think it's a poor indicator. I think it's an indicator that a lot of people get tied up on that can be very misleading. So I don't focus on that. But I think it's about 100% on 2 flushes. James Morgan, North Dakota here. Welcome, North Dakota. Welcome to East Tennessee. Mango Fever. Milky mushroom is like a garden vegetable. So I don't actually have any experience with it, man, but I want to try it. It looks delicious. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. It's got like a very marshmallow stem. Like it's kind of like you hold it and it's tough, You slice it right down the middle, and it's just marshmallow all the way through. So, which kind of reminds me of the king blue. The king blue is a very marshmallow stemmed kind of mushroom. James Morgan, what is the time frame inoculation to harvest for kings? About 6. That's to about grow room. So yeah, it's about 6 weeks. You're looking at about 4 weeks for oyster mushrooms, like 21 days to 4 weeks. So 3 to 4, with depending on the variety. King oysters is usually about 6 weeks for my giant king strain. If you're talking about other king strains, I don't grow very many other kings anymore other than that, so I don't really know. Very interested in trying this blotch resistant king from Cap and Stem. I haven't gotten that one yet, but I do plan on getting it and breeding it with my giant king and see if I can't get my giant king to keep its size, but also to have that blotch resistance. In fact, I might do the churn and really put them through just blotch until I can't, until I can get there, until I can get what I need. I mean, Billy Nash says, yeah, Mike Tyson is a great guy and great customer service. He's also now looking to partner with a big sterilized grain supplier to supply pre-sterilized grain also. Pre-poured plates are $1 each. So that's actually a good price. That's like more of a service than it is a profit-making thing. Like, that's kind of crazy. Oh, we got a super chat, guys. I got to focus on that real quick, and I'll get back up to the other questions. Lloyd Simmons says, spent blocks, what to do with them? I am thinking of taking the blocks, removing plastic, crushing them, then spread them out on land. Just concerned about mushrooms popping up in my field. Dude, I do it all the time. I till those blocks under. I pile them up on my beds. We get mushrooms all the time. It's never been a problem in my fields. So peppers, tomatoes, whatever. I do like to try to let them compost over winter before planting, but I still get mushrooms in the spring along. Like, I'll have a tomato plant with oyster mushrooms kind of growing around it sometimes. So it's a great idea. I also sell my blocks to gardeners for $1 a piece or $100 a truckload. But anymore, I can't focus on it. It's not a real money maker, like it would be if I focused on it, I think, and had a whole facility and infrastructure. But where I don't, I've actually just told my employees that if they can sell them, they can sell them and keep the money off of it, so they can charge whatever they want a truckload, whatever is worth putting up with it. So they started selling that. We actually need to start doing that again because we got a lot more mushroom blocks coming out of the grow room. But yeah, that's what I do with them. Other than that, we used to take them to the landfill because they have a big gas harvester, so where they put all this stuff in and they're harvesting the waste gas off of it to run power plants in this area. And so that was not the ideal way of doing it, but we did do that whenever we had them. You just don't want blocks building up in big piles, because if you have blocks building up in big piles, you're going to get rats, and you don't want rats. So, all right. Chat Bear says, awesome, thank you. Your videos rock, by the way. Thank you very much, man, for being part of this community, part of this channel, and you're welcome. And thank you again. Adunk says, awesome, thank you. We'll order some LC as soon as I get something set up. Absolutely, man. Just hit me up whenever you're ready. We're getting LC out the door quick these days. Michael Mama, do you guys have any Boletus in your inventories? I don't. I don't deal with those. I hunt chicken fat mushrooms in the late summer to early fall. Those are one of my favorites to take, and then dry them and crush them up into a powder, season soups and stuff with them. It's a lot like the boletes, but I mean, it is a bolete, but it's like a porcini in flavor, only I think better, a little spicier. So, let's see. Lawrence says, Manitoba here. Any other Canadians? So all you Canucks get with Lawrence. And like I said, I hope Canuck. If Canuck's a slur, you guys need to let me know. I don't want to be a terrible person. Woodhick, are you cultivating morels? I am not. I don't know very many people do. I do. My first tattoo ever was of a morel mushroom, off of Eugenia Bone's book, The Mushroom Hunters? No, that's Langdon Cook. Eugenia Bone wrote a book that was one of the first mushroom books, Mycophilia, The Love of Mushrooms. Great book. I loved the artwork. I took that book to a tattoo artist and said, give me that. And that was my very first thing. That's the first thing I knew that was permanent in my life, beyond my wife and my children and taxes, was mushrooms. So I love them is the answer, but I don't grow them. Michael Mama, I take my spent blocks to my local community farming co-op. They love them. Free nutrients to feed the community. Absolutely. I think that's great. Anytime we can build goodwill to mushroom growers in this world, that's a great thing to do. Mango Fever says, Kings taste better than milky mushrooms. The milky mushroom has an aftertaste and needs to be cooked through. I tried drying milky mushroom and vomited after eating them cooked. Well, that's disappointing. Way to burst my bubble. But I'll check it out. We'll see what we can do. The ones I was talking about drying and then seasoning soups with was the chicken fat mushroom, the slippery jack, I think it's called in most common name for English speakers. It's a pine bolete. It's yellow. It's got a very slick, fatty feeling cap. But it is a superior. I learned this from some Eastern European friends of mine. It is a superior cooking mushroom. I like it better than porcini dried. I've never had fresh porcini, but I like it better than the dried porcini. So, Saltine says it's good to know that BE isn't as important as it's made out to be. Have you ever had parboiled Amanita muscaria or any other poisonous mushroom? Just curious of taste. Okay. So breaking it apart, yeah, I mean, it is good to know that. I feel like so people dial in on BE and they try to get BE to be perfect. You're not really worried about your biological efficiency, in my opinion, so much as you are the dollars per man hours that you're putting in. But dollars per man hours is far more important in your mushroom strains, like. You know, you're not going to get better biological efficiency off shiitake, but let's use shiitake for an example. The labor cost and the harvesting and the long incubation times means that you're getting fewer dollars per man hours that go into what you're producing than what you do with oysters. So it's always, to me, about that more than it is about biological efficiency. Though biological efficiency can inform dollars per hour, particularly like getting that biological efficiency on the front end. But even then, I think that weight is a poor indicator of a quality mushroom. So a lot of mushrooms we grow are very light and would not have their biological efficiency within 2 flushes, but they fill up a box because they have really good quality biomass to them that isn't just water weight. And with biological efficiency, I feel like you're being tricked by water weight. So I hope that helps. The other part of your thing was, have I ever eaten parboiled Amanita muscaria or any other poisonous mushroom? So I want to try Amanita muscaria. I'm a little nervous to try it, but I would love to. I feel like if I was in if I was at a mushroom festival or something like that, I might be willing to try it, so long as I trusted the source. But no, I have not. And I don't know what the taste is like or anything like that. I am more interested in the other effects of Amanita muscaria than I am the taste. Scott says, yeah, I'm Canadian, Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. So, man, guys, get connected with each other, all you Canadians. Do you dry and sell your seconds, and is it worth it? I don't dry and sell my seconds. It was worth it when I was doing farmers markets, and the cottage laws allowed me to easily sell mushroom powder. But I don't sell at farmers markets anymore. I sell to restaurants, and the cottage laws don't apply to restaurants, and so it is no longer worth it to me until I get a commercial kitchen, which is an option in the future. And dried oyster mushroom powder makes an amazing seasoning. Just smoked oyster mushrooms, dried, bam. It's a great flavoring agent. Sporadic. We're 4 months before we start production, but I'm interested in building my strain library. Thoughts on storing liquid culture syringes and jars? How long could they sit in the fridge? Stir often? So I can't tell you that you can store them in the fridge for a long time and guarantee that my cultures will work. Primarily because we've not done thorough testing of keeping them for long periods of time. I will tell you that I have stored liquid cultures in the refrigerator for a year and pulled them out and given them a vigorous shake, and then really had to push down that syringe because the mycelium's so packed that it gets out of the syringe, but it works. Like, I've had it for a year in the fridge and it worked just fine. So it really just depends on how clean it is and how durable the strain is. But it's often you can sit it for a very long time. So if you take it and make up your jars, you've got a few weeks of your jars growing out before you need to refrigerate them. I've put them in the refrigerators for months so far and I had plenty of good luck. So And stirring, when you got them in the fridge, you don't want to stir them. You do want to take them out and stir them occasionally, but you don't want to stir them too often because they're not healing as quickly as they are in the warm temperatures. So, all right, so how many passages can you get away with LC to LC before mutations arise? What you're really worried about is enzyme blindness more than any sort of mutations, in my opinion. So I don't like going from LC to LC to LC to LC, maybe once or twice, and then I'm done. I'm restarting from agar. And my agar, gets restarted pretty regularly from my culture slants. So Helen says, "Hey, from Quebec, Canada." Yeah, that's right, Helen. That's right. That's why you had that wonderful accent. Michael Mama says, "Saltine. Be careful with that. Sometimes the taste is not worth the time spent on the commode." Yeah, that's kind of what I'm worried about with that. So, take that risk at your own judgment. James Morgan, I'm planning on feeding spent blocks to worms in a large gravity feed, V-shaped holding bin, and harvest worm castings and liquid out the bottom 4x4s on top of each bin. I'm hoping that would work. So I know people do that with the oyster mushroom mycelium. You have to be careful. I did it one time, and the oyster mushroom mycelium killed my worms. Or at least I think they did, because they were all myceliated and dying. Maybe they were dying for some other reason, and the mycelium was just taking advantage of that. But I've heard that you might need to age your oyster blocks a little bit. Because you got to remember, oyster blocks have no qualms about eating nematodes. So I'm thinking that they don't have a problem eating worms. But I could be wrong. There was a guy in the chat who sent me some pictures of beetles being raised on oyster mushrooms and trametes, turkey tail, in jars. And they grow the grubs out and then raise these gigantic beetles. Who was that? I'd have to look at the email to remember who that was. But anyways, it looks fascinating. Those beetles are amazing and beautiful. Holy crap. Who knew there were so many beautiful beetles out in the world? Larry Hart says, "Yay, I'm not the only Canadian." No, man, I got a lot of Canadian followers, actually. It's kind of a real pain because I have a hard time shipping to Canada, and I wish I could get to you guys a lot easier. It's that dang border, man. Michael Mama says, "I sell my second shiitakes as shibacon. My vegan customers love it as an alternative to bacon on their salads and soups." That's interesting. Do you cook those up, or do they just do those raw? Because that would be... Did you say? I love it. So you didn't say anything about cooking it. Okay. I wonder, because those oyster mushrooms that were fried up till they were crispy, that went on that salad we had the other night, that was beautiful. Like I could eat that all day long. Spore Addict, recipe for agar slants. It's just my malt extract agar with sawdust soy pellets. Okay, so 500 milliliters water, 10 grams agar, 10 grams malt extract, 1 gram hardwood fuel pellets, 1 gram soybean hull pellets. I think I said the 500 milliliters water already. Polyfill in the top of your Ohlmeyer flask, aluminum foil over, make sure it's tightened down, and then pressure cook for 30 minutes at 15 psi. And then pour into your slants. I use, 25, 50 milliliter slants, and at 500 milliliters, comes out to, is it 20 milliliters, I think? So we got divided by 25. It's 20, yeah. Okay, I'm right. I just want to make sure I was right. Like I said before, math is my worst subject. So about 20 milliliters goes into each slant. And they get poured into the little tube, closed up, set aside on my leaned holder so that the slant actually has a lot more surface area to work with. Campbell Walker, so that was on Wednesdays, the Beatles fella. Yeah, Wednesday was when that guy came on, and that was really, like, he sent me the email very quickly, and man, those things are gorgeous. Like, I'm just blown away by how pretty they are. Lauren says, even better, I'm in Winnipeg. Most shipments of anything are late because of snow. Yeah, that's a bummer, man. You guys really get hard, but winter's like my favorite time because it's when I'm finally comfortable in this world. And I hate heat. And I don't know that I would like your all's winter. Michael Mama says, I cooked them in the oven for 350 degrees at 20 minutes, lightly sprinkled with olive oil, smoked paprika, garlic powder, black pepper, salt, then bagged when completely cooled. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Yes, Wayne, I agree. Yum. Put all of that on prior to cooking. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. That's what I normally do when I roast stuff. Sporadic says, thanks, you're welcome. Or Macamama, you betcha. Oh, okay, yeah, the thanks was probably to be for the agar slants. Yeah, that, you're welcome, man. The slants changed the way I do things. That NNG is backed up, backed up, backed up, backed up. So I never have to worry again. And I've sent it out to people who act as secondaries for me. So if my house burns down and all my strains go with it, I don't want to be without my culture library. So my parents have some, and I have other people who hold strains for me. But I have found that the best way to make sure that a strain never dies is to put it out into the community and get people to grow it, because it's kind of like hunting, like if you want to save an endangered species, allow people to hunt it, because then resources are thrown at it to save it, which seems backwards, but seems to be a very legit strategy. It's kind of like the same thing where if you've got the special strain, you don't just hoard it for yourself, you sell it, you get it out there in the world, you give it to people, you move it around, that way it is spread. The Pathfinder oyster, I got that a few years ago from a buddy of mine who worked for the Forestry Service. We got that, man, that thing's growing in Hawaii and Alaska, Florida, Maine. Oh, thank you, baby. I'm so sorry that you had to work that hard while I'm doing this. That was very selfish of me to schedule this now.
Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer. That'll work.
12 cases.
12 cases. 12 cases, guys. Oh, there are more probably coming in tomorrow. I saw we got an entire wall of King Blues coming in, like pinning right now. Pinning.
And your original estimate of 20 was spot on, but there's definitely a few that I want to pick early.
Oh, you threw some away?
No, there's a few that I feel like could go
Till tomorrow.
Until around 5 or 6 in the morning tomorrow.
Gotcha. Oh, Michael. Hey, Michael Lee's on. What's up, man? Received the Pathfinder and Black Pearl LCs. Awesome packaging. Also, just wondered why the Black Pearl was blue. Kind of makes it hard to distinguish from contamination. Yeah, so that was an experiment, and I loved it, and I ran with it, and then I put the blue LC into grain, and every now and then I'm like, man, is that green spots? Oh, no, that's where the blue's fading, where the mycelium's eating it. So the next batch I made, which is coming up, is I put 1 syringe of blue liquid culture. Yes, I see that your hand is in there. My goodness, boy. He's not going to be happy until this whole thing crashes down around us. No, I'm playing, boy. So anyways, I did 1 syringe into the liquid culture to inoculate it, and now that one's green. So now we got to go one more step to see if we can't get this down or restart entirely from culture plate. So yeah, just is what it is. I'm sorry that the blue is a little hard to distinguish from contamination, man, but I hope you really like it. The Black Pearl is a killer, man. That thing has been putting out like crazy. And that Pathfinder is nice too. I've got a bunch of jars going of it right now. Michael Mama says, I lost 200 pounds completely due to mushrooms. So I came up with tons of ways to eat things I love that were, bad for me, but I figured out how to replace them with mushrooms. You lost? No, you're not saying what I think you're saying. You lost 200 pounds? I thought you meant you lost 200 pounds of mushrooms. You lost 200 pounds eating mushrooms? Yeah, I mean, I get it. They're good for weight loss, but you lost 200 pounds? I've seen your pictures. There's no way. Damn, woman. Michael Lee says, congratulations, by the way. I've lost like 50 pounds, and I feel like a brand new person. So, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
It's a lot of dedication.
Yeah, it is. That's discipline.
Yeah, a lot of
I admire any sort of discipline.
And a lot of ingenuity to find all the different ways that you can cook those. Because
she said, yes, sir. I weighed 368 pounds. Went down to 143. Good for you, girl. Get it. Get it.
Yes.
May your inbox always be full of DMs. Oh, my gosh.
I love it.
You just blew my mind, because I thought losing 60 pounds was the best thing in the world. I did that stopping Coca-Colas. My mouth just went dry. My mouth still goes. It's been 4 years since I've had a Coca-Cola, and my mouth just went desert dry thinking about one. Ooh, I want one so bad. Michael Lee says, also wondering why you add fuel pellets and soybean hull pellets to your agar for petri dishes. It's just another food source. I've done side-by-sides. They grow in better. They grow in faster. I'm having varied amounts of substrate in there. I feel like helps with enzyme blindness. I still do regular, like, growing it across sterilized wood chips or sawdust and then taking it back to agar. You can do, like, a water agar with sawdust and soy in it and use that as a way to help keep from enzyme blindness. But it's just another food source. And they, like in my side-by-side trials, it does work better. I hear you, darling.
She hears your puppy dog.
Helen says, Michael Mama, put your recipes out there. Yes, put them out there. But write some blog. Hey, you want to write up some recipes for our blog post and take some pictures of your stuff, and we'll post it on our blog as a guest writer.
She said, unfortunately, they don't make my Coca-Cola.
Yeah, we need to make my Coca-Cola. I agree.
They do a shiitake fizz pop something or another. I don't know.
See, Spore Addict says, do you just scrape the slants with an inoculation loop, or would one slant last long enough? No. So what I do is I cut a small piece of agar out of a culture, and then just transfer that into. I've got a whole series coming up on it very, very soon. I think tomorrow is a ventilation video, and then the next one after that's an agar video. But I just take the scalpel, the culture sitting on the top, I just stab it down and then pull it back out, and that leaves that little chunk in there. I let it grow for 2 or 3 days. When I see some nice growth, it's nice and clean. I make sure that it's nice and closed up, put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in my refrigerator. Wayne says, Myco Mama gets my first culture of what got me to fall in love with mycology. Indigo milk cat that grows in my yard. Hey.
That's awesome.
That sounds awesome. You guys should be trading some stuff for sure. Michael Mama says, firefighters are naturally a little plump. Lol. Yeah, well, wait, you're a firefighter too? I think Helen said she was a firefighter when we were talking.
Awesome.
Man, I didn't know there were so many firefighter chicks. That's awesome. And yeah, I know a bunch of firefighters. They're Couch Boy out in Newmarket. He's a pretty plump guy. I used to play basketball with him growing up in elementary school. Wayne says, I'm sure you'll be next on the list. Yeah, man, I'll try a milk cap, indigo milk cap. I've never grown that, man. I'd be happy to try it. Sporadic says, get some. Talking about Michael Mama, but yeah, get some. That's dedication. Dedication and discipline are beauty and strength. That is what dedication and discipline is. T. Moore says, have you tried to cultivate chicken of the woods? I have grown chicken of the woods, and I have eaten the fruits off the blocks. I've grown it on Master's Mix. I have not had good luck with getting yields high enough to make money off of it. But it tastes pretty good. I find that wild clones of chicken of the woods fruit better than any of the commercial varieties I found. And I don't know if it loses its ability to fruit in cultivation or if it's just wild strains happened. I don't know. There was a company in Poland, Hungary, somewhere in Eastern Europe, they were growing it, and that's what gave me the idea, and I tried it, and it worked. Got it from a friend of mine who's now out of the business. He was probably 2 hours west of me, and he had found a strain that was growing for him. So it's a delicious mushroom, and I eat it from the wild all the time, every year. But it's not one that I cultivate anymore because I never could figure out how to make it worth it. Michael Lee, I'm also trialing an LC recipe that has just distilled water and 100% pure maple syrup using that needle biopsy tech. Yeah, let me know how that goes. I used RO water side by side with tap water, and the tap water worked better for me, which is why I continue to use tap water, because I've used filtered, tapped, mineral, spring, everything. And I find that the tap water has continuously worked better for me, and I don't know why. Part of me kind of doesn't want it to, even though it's the simplest way to go. But I don't know. There's something about tap water that you think, maybe I don't want to do that. I have grown it on maple syrup, and that does work. Smells good too. What is enzyme blindness? Okay, so sporadic. The enzyme blindness is basically mushroom diabetes. You gotta think, when we're growing a malt extract agar, that's sugar. When we're growing on the carbohydrate heavy grain, that's mostly sugar. We're growing in liquid culture, we're growing it on sugar water. It's just sugar, 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 sugar. So eventually, over time, over multiple generations of just eating sugar, the mushrooms eventually lose their ability. They forget, we'll say, how to produce sugars themselves off of lean substrates such as wood, right? So as they lose this, they become less vigorous and everything else. They used to call it senescence, which is basically aging, but mushrooms don't age the way we do. So it's not actually aging, it's actually an enzyme blindness thing. So if you can revive a culture by taking it back to sawdust and then growing it through, and it will regain some of its vigor over time doing it that way, like putting it back and forcing it to learn how to eat it again. But in my experience, you are best off never allowing it to lose its vigor in the first place. So, because you got to think, cell replications are how things age. We do it, we age, we shed skin, everything's constantly being replaced. Our organs are constantly being replaced, one layer at a time kind of thing, right? So mycelium continues to grow. Every time it grows, it ages, technically speaking. But you got to think, the largest organism in the world is how many acres? 2,000 acres. That's a mile or more across. It's like 2,000 years old. It's gone through how many cell replications and is still here, still a thing. Why didn't that age? It doesn't matter how, we have humans who live 100 and something years, but not 2,000, And so even though most mushrooms only live a couple of years or a few years or whatever, why did this one make it? And they're capable of making it all the time because, they don't actually age the way we age. Hope that answers your question. I learned that from Sidney Ober-Singleton, by the way. And he called it enzyme blindness, and I called it mushroom diabetes. And he went, mushroom diabetes is a good, common way of saying it. Joe Choi, how long do you think it would take for enzyme blindness and LCs at room temp? I have a few that really grown in. Does refrigerating slow down growth? Refrigerating does slow down growth. I don't think you have to worry about it for a few transfers. Usually this is when you're talking about when you've done it over and over and over and over again. Most hobbyists won't have to worry about it. I don't think most small businesses will have to worry about it. In fact, most of the cultures you're growing are going to be able to be easily replaced by growing them out for a few generations. When they slow down, you buy it again and restart. Now, if you're looking to create your own cultural library, breeding, harvesting wild ones and putting them in, getting them out there to other people is going to be number one. And then number two is going to be, taking it through having a regular scheduled program of training for the mushroom species or for the mushroom strain. Sorry. Oh man, the chat jumped. Michael. Oh, there we go. Michael Mama, fire chicks are definitely badass. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. And Helen said, "You're right, Michael Mama." And she said, "Helen, how do you get up with you?" Yeah, you fire chicks get it. I like it. Joe Choi, I meant to say, does the mycelium lose its vigor after refrigeration? I mean, for a short period. You'll need to take it out. I find that letting stuff warm up overnight usually allows it to start moving forward again. As far as slowing down its growth as to preserve its vigor, yeah, I mean, you slowed down the amount of cell replications that have happened, the metabolism that it's going, so it does slow down, in effect, enzyme blindness. Woodhick says tap water mineral content. That's what I was wondering, if it's the mineral content. I don't know what the mineral content of mineral water is. So, when you buy in the gallon jug from the store. So, I'm thinking tap water maybe has, especially here, we have a very lime-heavy tap water. So I'm wondering if it has something to do with the lime that's in the water. I don't really know. I know that we have a mine right across the highway from where we live. You can hear the booms. It's regularly scheduled, the booms every night. You can feel it in the house. The floor, trembles a little bit. And our water reserve for the town is actually down deep in the mine where the lower levels are flooded. And so it's very lime heavy. It's a lime. They pull lime out of there all the time. It's a very lime heavy area. And it's a zinc mine. So they take zinc and lime and everything else. They take it from the mine. But my understanding is they filter it and then add the lime back or add some sort of, water. Like, I don't know much about water purification. I would like to learn. So I don't know what's going on, I'd be very, I wonder if the city would allow me to just go talk to them about their water process and maybe find out what's going on. Wayne says we replace every cell every 7 years. Really? I didn't realize it was that often. And I bet certain things are faster. I bet skin's faster than maybe some of your internal organs. Michael Lee, blocks in the incubation to fruiting chamber. How long do you normally let them sit in your incubation chamber and from the point of fruiting initiation? So blocks go in. They usually sit in our incubation room for about 2 weeks. They go in the grow room, and it's usually about 10 to 11 days later that we're picking mushrooms. So that comes out to about 21 days full cycle to first harvest. And no, I don't let them pin in the grow room. If I can get them, I don't want anything pinning before I have control over where it's pinning, because I want it to pin in that square. We fail all the time, and we still just cut our square anyways, and the mushrooms that are on the top of the bag die off, and they'll finally fruit out. But it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. Sporadic ventilation question. Feel free to discuss tomorrow in the video rather than the negative pressure alone. What about also pushing? Well, so the video is already made, so I can't add anything to it at this point. It is scheduled to publish tomorrow. It's already loaded up to YouTube. You guys just can't see it yet. But we have found that Sunday is our best day for the numbers. Robin is much more professional at this than me, so she is trying to schedule out the days where we get the biggest boost. I can't tell you guys, like, since Robin's taken over this channel, my growth has gone like that. So what she's doing is working, and that's what we're really trying to get, is to get out there as many people as possible, obviously for the greedy reasons, but also just because, we want this community to work. We're invested in it. So to answer your question, though, rather than negative pressure alone, what about also pushing in with another fan on the other side with ducts for laminar flow? So Ben and I have talked about it, and we don't find it to be necessary. We actually do have a small fan that's blowing into our humidifier and then blowing the fog out. I don't have a problem with it. I'd really want to sit down and have somebody convince me why that's good. And maybe you're that person. But I don't have an answer for you right now. Consider water ionization. So we do air ionization in the lab through a small HEPA filter. So why water ionization? I'll look it up, but if you want to put it in the chat, why? Make sure to back up all your videos on an external hard drive or something. I think I have a couple fans that are already doing that. I probably should. I mean, all of our videos are on an external hard drive. Robin has copies. I have copies. So, I mean, it shouldn't be going anywhere. Eric Myers' channel actually got taken down, if that's what you're referring to. Not because YouTube was after him or after mushroom growers. It's because he kept putting links to his items in people's comments. I got to read he let me read the letter that YouTube sent him, and it absolutely had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he was they changed the algorithm, and he got 3 strikes retroactively, which is unfair in my opinion. But he broke the rules. Like that was the thing. So that being the case, we're very careful not to break the rules. That's why I won't link any. When people ask me stuff in the comments, I will not link it except in the description. I'm very careful to not cuss in the first 10 minutes of something. I try to keep my monetization secure, everything else. Like, we work really hard to make sure that we're following the guidelines and the rules, even though I am not a rule following type of guy. I'm also not a person that I want my channel destroyed. Michael Mama, did you guys ever sell inoculated blocks or logs at farmers market? I'm finding more and more that my customers love my many seminars about my lab work and mycology, and I get to geek out on the regular. Yes, we did do that. And something I found out, and this is, take it or leave it. It's up to you. It wasn't, when we looked at the dollars per hours at market, all of those little mini seminars, people really did love them, and I liked giving them. But they kind of clumped up. It only really worked when I had someone else there to just sell mushrooms to the people interested in the mushrooms. Otherwise, I was taking valuable time away from sales to do something I was interested in and that other people were interested in. And I liked that part, and it was very hard for me to let that go. But eventually when we started doing markets alone, either Samantha or myself, I really started focusing on just dialing in the sales, getting as many hours as I can of rest, because at that point it was all on just us two. The occasional help has been until we could finally, and when we got to the point where we could afford employees, it's gotten easier every employee. It gets harder when we first hire an employee, it gets harder, and then it starts getting easier as time goes on. So I hope that like helps. Like I'm not like criticizing. I think it's actually a good idea, and it's great for building awareness. It's just as long as it's not getting into your dollar time, or if you actually just want to do it as a service. Woodhick says rainwater. Water ionization of rainwater, or you're talking about rainwater is ionized as it's passing through the clouds or passing through the atmosphere? Timor, yes. Yeah, so I mean that's why, yeah, I know Eric's he had like 60,000 subscribers, and they just shut him down, and they would not give him the time of day. It was very unfair. That said, that's why I'm so cautious, because I saw that happen. Michael Lee Wagman says, so from your experience with Pathfinder, they don't get dense white, and does it fit with your 2 weeks incubation? So it does fit in with my incubation schedule. I mean, give or take a day. It does not grow in as dense. It is a very thin looking mycelium. It looks a lot more like a lion's mane or comb tooth. It like grows in thin, and then kind of like will start to thicken up as it after the fact, after it's colonized. But you already want to be fruiting it by that point. Like, it doesn't, to me, a Pathfinder oyster block doesn't look like an oyster block till about the second flush. So, I mean, Michael Obama says, thank you so much. That helps so much. Or thank you so much. That helps so much because I'm by myself. I just set a table up that shows the steps from spore prints to logs at the end. Yeah, so I think it's great, especially if you can systematize it. I never did a very good job of systematizing farmers market sales. I'm much too chatty. I mean, as you guys can see, we're at a live stream for 2 hours and 46 minutes right now, and I'm still going strong. I could do this all night. I'm not going to, because Samantha's got me a burger like 2 hours ago that's sitting there like just soaking up grease, and I don't want that. So I don't want a mushy burger, but I would take a mushy burger, as in a mushroom burger. But so I'm going to end it at the 3 hour mark. So you guys got me for about 14 minutes. That said, it was one of my favorite parts, and part of it, was probably kind of an ego thing for me. Like, I liked that people listened to me and were interested in something I had to say. But mostly it was when I get interested in something, I'm obsessively interested in it. Like, Samantha, like, I'm painfully obsessive with something. So, like, I don't want to say it like I said. Like, my grandfather thought he was on the spectrum. My cousins and I agree that we might all be on the spectrum somewhat. Like, we definitely get super into stuff, and don't get back out. But I don't think it's a bad thing. What is the typical bio efficiency you have of lion's mane? I've heard anywhere from, say, 25 to 60%. That seems low to me. What is your experience? Thank you. So, Robert, I don't grow lion's mane, but comb tooth, which I do grow, tends to be a heavier yielder, number one. Again, earlier I was talking about how bioefficiency, to me, biological efficiency is a trap in mushroom production. I don't focus on that at all. I focus on more closely to man hours to dollars. That said, our comb tooth strain, I mean, we're regularly picking 3-4 pound clusters first flush of our comb tooth. We're having the regular addition of certain blocks producing 5 pound clusters. So that said, I don't sell by weight, so it's a completely unhelpful metric for me because we sell by the case. What I am most worried about is how much biomass, dry biomass goes into a case. And that's really only something you can do with volume. More so, like, I mean, I could sell $8 a pound water of oysters to my chefs, but that's not what I'm concerned with. We sell our comb tooth at $12 a pound, but it's not really a pound because, like I said, we don't focus on that. It ends up being a $120 case, and it's roughly 10 pounds. But oftentimes that box will sell for $120 and be 12 pounds. So we might be getting a lower price point per pound, but I'm not ripping my chefs off by selling them expensive water. I know personally some mushroom growers, a couple of them out of business now, who sell to distributors. They make like $3.50 a pound off oysters. It's ridiculous. I make like $8 a pound. Like I said, it's an $80 case, and it's roughly a 10 pound box. These guys would go in the night before picking, like they know they're going to pick in the morning, and they they have their mushrooms dialed in where they all flush at once, which is something we don't do. We like to have our mushrooms flush all throughout the week, and we do multiple delivery days a week because we're collecting that extra money that directly from the chef rather than going through a distributor. It's a tier 1 mushroom farm setup, and if you read our mycological warfare series. So that being the case, like oyster mushroom case, we like to focus on that volume, and it keeps me from having to grow only the heavy. Those mushroom growers, they'd go in the night before they were picking, and they would jack up their humidity, and what that did was create soggy mushrooms. But they were getting weight, right? The problem is your shelf life is completely diminished. So it was like a vicious feedback loop, right? It's kind of like the reason why I won't ever drop my prices, even if I have extra mushrooms I'm going to throw away. I don't drop my prices because I don't want to be in a price war with myself. That's what these guys were doing. They were creating mushrooms with a lower shelf life that were heavier. So the first week or two, it was working better for them. But as the distributors start looking at what they're receiving and how much mushrooms they're having to throw away because they went bacterial or smelly or slimy or whatever, now they have to decrease the price they're willing to pay. When they decrease that price they're having to pay, now this guy's getting paid less. Now he's got to do it again to make up for that loss, right? So it gets into this just whole like complete downward spiral that I've got no interest in. Same way I won't like drop my prices. A chef might buy twice as many mushrooms, which would be great that week. I might drop the price down to $60 a case and still be making money, right? And it's like, oh, I didn't have to throw those away. But he bought 2 weeks worth of mushrooms. Now he's not buying next week. So that just lost $20 per case. So, and then what he'll do is he'll start waiting. We actually noticed this when we used to drop prices. They would wait till the very end of the week, then buy up all of the cheap boxes. And we just stopped that because it was like, it's just ridiculousness. It's complete ridiculousness. We don't want to be in that kind of business where we're undercutting ourselves. So I don't like this. I know this is a huge thing on biological efficiency. It just burns me up. I feel like it creates all kinds of bad habits. I hope I'm not like pissing you off, man, because the comb tooth is a bigger mushroom anyway. Its main sells better at a volume price. I think it's just I just don't like people getting caught in that trap of biological efficiency. They read it in Paul Stamets' book, and I think that he was doing the best he could with the information he had at the time. I just think it's a poor metric now. Wayne says, look into ozone generators. I have one, and it's great for killing pretty much everything living in a closed room. They make them to treat mold growth in homes. Yeah, so I've looked at those. I've thought about that. I haven't gotten one yet. Like I said, I do use a small HEPA filter that runs even when my big one's off, and it has an ionizer to it. And then we just clean the floors regularly so that, everything that's charged that falls down, we get all that cleaned up. Shelves get cleaned regularly, everything else. If you only have one grow room, what would be the best mushroom to grow together in the same room? So everything I grow grows well together. Oyster mushrooms, hericiums, black poplar, chestnuts, all of those grow well in the same room. You might have to make some compromises occasionally, like hericiums don't like it as wet and as much fresh air as the oysters do. So you find the drier, slower air spots, that kind of stuff. Scott says, dude, dig into that burger. We don't care. And Michael says, feed your face. I appreciate that.
Hard to answer questions when you have food.
Exactly. I'm not going to just talk to you with a full mouth. By the way, it's a Pal's burger. I want you guys to know that. I don't know. Most of you guys don't have Pal's. It's an East Tennessee thing. And what's the what's the soda? Oh my gosh, I've forgotten it. What do they have there? The green. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Huh? Dr. Enough. So they have Dr. Enough, Pal's Burgers. Pal's burgers are cheap, and they're delicious. They're like the best burger. They're better than a lot of gourmet burgers I can get. It's amazing. And it's only drive-through, so you go through and you've got your food in like 30 seconds. It's the best fast food restaurant I've ever been to my entire life.
Pretty much the only fast food burger that we can eat that doesn't make us
Like sick to our stomachs or something.
Yeah.
So it's
not
you got. So what we do every time someone comes in for an in-person consult, we take them to Pal's. Get a Pal's peachy tea, a Frenchie fry, and a big pal with cheese, and you are set for life. You'll always want to come back to Tennessee just for the burger. Perry Fire says, loving your helpfulness. Thanks so much. How do you dial in market days? I can't get my grows to flush consistently as far as a number of days out. Yeah, so what we do is we just spread the paint out. We try to plant a little bit in the beginning of the week, a little bit in the end of the week, and then it just continues to trickle constantly. And what we do is we have restaurant delivery days that are multiple. And then when we were doing farmers market, we had the Saturday market. So we would do like deliveries on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Saturdays and Mondays. So Saturdays would be like farmers market, to which we would bring boxes up. Chefs could come and get boxes from that from the market, or we could deliver it afterwards, which the mushrooms were a little rougher looking afterwards, but because especially in the summertime when the market's in full heat.
Yeah, it's hard to keep them nice and fresh. And
yeah, for sure.
The most difficult thing that I think I've ever come across.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how we do things. We just spread the paint out so that it continue. Like we're just having a constant trickle. So like Samantha went down and picked 12 cases. That's about 120 pounds, $80 a case. It's a pretty good day. Yesterday was a delivery day. How many boxes did we deliver yesterday? 21? 19. So we delivered 19 boxes yesterday. Tuesday comes in. I know we've got one restaurant. He's upped his order to 5 cases by himself. And then we've got a whole bunch more coming in. So we're talking probably another 19 to 21 cases going out Tuesday. So all those pins, like we try to strip the room on Friday. But even though we strip the room Friday, like we still get boxes on Saturday. And I don't like picking on Saturday, but sometimes we have to. We might do an early delivery like on Monday occasionally if we have to.
You'll start noticing a pattern.
Right.
But we deliver twice a week, and I like to plant twice a week. So
Yep.
we just plant one, and then everything will come in all in one day, and you won't have room like in the fridge, or at least not with our practices.
Right. So you'll find that, like she was saying, planting twice a week. If you plant the same days every week, that pattern will become apparent. So become very observant in everything you do with the mushrooms, and that the patterns will reveal themselves to you.
I also really like doing it twice a week because then you have typically a day between the cases. And if I have restaurants that order 2 to 3 cases, then I like to give them one that's 2 days old or a day old, and then one that's like an hour before I go. I try to pick as close to delivery as I possibly can. But I really like to give them sort of an older box and a newer box. That way they have that kind of rotation going through, and they seem to appreciate that as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Also, Micah Mama, I have found a reference site for your logo, and it's awesome. And guess what? It's toy dinosaurs.
Oh, I don't know that. I can't see that on there.
Ah, dang it. Maybe this way. She said she wanted a running dinosaur. So, there we go. It's running. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'm working on...
She started working on your logo.
I'm working on my eyeball references.
Well, that too, yeah. She does a lot of preparation for stuff. Michael Lee says, any techniques for condensation on agar petri dishes and them sticking together, petri? Yeah, so if you're talking about the parafilm sticking together, that's a common issue. A lot of times it has to do with things getting warm and then sticking together. If you're talking about just the plates, I don't know how hot you're pouring that agar, man, because that plastic shouldn't be sticking together that much. As far as condensation, I mean, a warm jar sitting on top of your plates as they're cooling in a big stack really helps keep most of everything, like a jar full of warm water. That'll buffer some of the condensation. Allowing them to sit in front of your flow hood for a few hours to dry will help out. She said, rolling the floor, laughing my ass off. Thank you, Sam. You freaking rock, chick.
You're welcome.
And then I use the same sleeve. The sleeve the dishes came in, I take that and I'll just slip that over. You'll see that in the Agar video when it comes out next week. I slip that over a stack as it's cooling, and that helps a lot with condensation. But also, if you just have condensation in your plate, like one or two, that you can't seem to get rid of, oftentimes just being right in front of your flow hood and tapping, like here's the table, just tapping it while it's facing the flow hood, allowing all that water to roll down, and then just pouring it out on the table, closing it up. That helps with condensation a lot. All right, guys, we're running out of time. I'm going to try to make this fast. If a chef buys 2 cases and doesn't buy the next week, are you saying they last 2 weeks without going bad in the restaurant? Yeah, I routinely have my chefs tell me that my mushrooms are lasting 2 to 3 weeks in the fridge.
I actually had a restaurant who they weren't there in time, or I wasn't there in time. They were closed, and so they asked me to drop them off at the restaurant next to them. So they're 2 chefs that are really good friends, and so I did so. But I wasn't able to give them the invoice. I wasn't able to get paid that day. So the next week, whenever I dropped off to get paid, I said, okay, I need that check from last week. And he was like, wait a minute. Did you drop off that box? And I was like, yeah, I did. I promise. And he was like, let's just go check just to make sure. And so he went and he brought the box to me and showed me. And it was a week old. And it looked like the day I delivered it. Yeah. It was gorgeous.
Pick early.
And I was amazed.
Pick early, put them in the fridge. They'll last for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, don't let your caps flip up like crazy. I mean, the Pathfinder's different. So the Pathfinder grows tulipped, which means that it flips up and then gets bigger before it starts sporing out. So that one you kind of have to let it flip up. But most oyster mushrooms, you don't want them. You want the cap to kind of start to curl out, and then right about there you want to pick it.
He was laughing at me because I couldn't believe the shelf life on my own product. I was being a goober head.
Adam says, thank you so much, bro. It's been a great time. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate you coming in, man. Robert says, thank you for your input. I understand pretty well at what you said, but it seems BE, a great metric / content, contains good info. It does contain good info. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that it was worthless. I just feel like it was like people get lasered in on it, and they think of biological efficiency is the only thing that matters, and it's not. Your labor is the final verdict, in my opinion. Robert B., if there were industry metric that includes BE, and the time, labor, et cetera, variables would be better. Yes, I don't know how to create a full value. That actually is not a bad idea, Robert. That would be good, for sure. I call you the charger. Well, the charger, man. You okay? You can't obviously can't do that there right now.
Dad, look in the kitchen.
Thank you for putting all this information out. I really do appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Yeah, absolutely, Timor. Thank you for joining us. Robert says, I was going to order some bags. Was needed to decide from unicorn bags, Far West fungi, or Northwest mycological bags. Any input on bag suppliers by chance? Eric Meyer sells bags, and he's very fast. That is what I'm most concerned with since I run lean. Seth Fisher of Mushroom Media Online is very, very fast. Both of them are also not much more than you can get directly from the supplier of unicorn. I prefer unicorn bags over anyone else that I've gotten so far. I've heard Far West Fungi has good bags. I've not tried those. So I hope that helps, Robert. What is your average temp and average humidity in grow room? Average temp, my ideal temperature is what I'll talk about, because average it changes. Like 75 is the highest I want it to get to at all. I never want to get it above 75. 65 is my ideal. 55 is good in the wintertime. I get really good yields, but the mushrooms grow slower than I would like. So 65 is threading the needle, in my opinion. Humidity. I have my bottom at 65%, my top at 85% right now. Wayne says, thank you for another great watch. Go Eat Eater. Yep, heading off right now. All of you guys are very welcome. If you need anything, as always, you can email me based off the website. My Instagram's at mycominer.com, MyCominer. That is also my gamer tag for anyone on Xbox Live. So appreciate you guys making this thing a pleasant thing to do. And as always, y'all, keep spawning culture.